Hey. What's happening, folks? Look at that. We are waiting on Phil still. But Dayton is here.
How's it going?
What's happening? I'm waiting on my co-host still. I have not heard from him yet.
That's fine.
But what is going on?
Monday stuff.
It's my last day off of my 3-day weekend, so I go back to work tomorrow.
Bummer. Maybe, depending on what you do.
I'm a tobacconist at a cigar shop.
Oh. So you probably enjoy that.
It's not bad. Yeah, Brandon, he's late again. He was late on another show last night. And so now we all give him a hard time. Yeah, I mean, it's not bad. It's, I don't know. I'm sort of ready to get back into the swing of things. I went up to the Atlanta Repticon this weekend, hung out with Casey Cannon, saw Jeremy from Nerd. He was there. And it's a good time.
Yeah, sounds like fun. I think everybody's ready to get back to some semblance of like more normal.
He lives.
So I wasn't going to be late. I was literally going to be perfectly on time, but the stupid StreamYard, it won't let me. I didn't restart the computer. So it's telling me your microphone doesn't work, your camera doesn't work, blah, blah, blah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, but I'm here. What's up, Dayton?
How's it going?
Yes, this is Phil Wolf, the other half
Hey,
of the
Phil.
show.
How's it going, man?
Good.
I don't know what you're smoking tonight, Phil, but I finally, so when I was up in Atlanta at that show, I stopped by a little cigar shop, and they had these Alec Bradley Magic Toast, which I've been wanting to try.
Oh, wow, look at that.
For a while now. This is the 6x60, I think. Maybe it's a 54. I'm not sure.
So you guys just like you're cool like smoking cigars in your house and stuff?
I'm in my garage.
Oh, okay. All right.
Speaking of which, I need to vent mine real quick before I freaking hotbox everything.
Well, tonight I'm actually smoking my arguably go-to all-time favorite Liga Privada number 9. However, where is it? There it is. However, this size is weird, and I almost thought that it might be fake. It's like a weird bellicoso, but it's got like a Toro length. I don't know. Maybe I'm just losing my mind, but it started to plume out a little bit in the one humidor it was in, and I was like, you know what, let me just smoke it now before it gets funky. So.
Yeah, I'm way over my head. I don't really do cigars, just occasionally. But yeah, I don't really know anything about it.
I got you. So since I'm always late to everything, hello everyone. Hello Puget. Hello Blue Ridge. What's up, Thomas, Dallas, Ryan, Austin, Hendog, everybody who's in here. Did Justin do any kind of intro or no?
No.
Well, this is Snakes and Stogies, episode number 60. Yes, I have to look over in the screen because I lose track. Thank you for everyone who's been watching up to this point. 60 episodes. It's crazy. And yeah, it's just awesome to be doing this still. I love it.
Other angle's a little too tight.
A little too tight.
A little tight. So while I was up at the Atlanta show, I picked up that cage from Black Box. It's an XT4.
Excellent.
For the Tannin Bar Scrub, and it is awesome. I'll be doing a more in-depth review on it in not maybe the next issue of the magazine, but the one after that. I'm not sure yet. It depends. But I also had this come in today, newest issue.
Love it.
Came out really good. I think I've really sort of nailed down as far as font size and stuff and making everything kind of work. where I want it. So
Good stuff, man. Good stuff.
very happy with it. Very pleased.
Do you guys normally have like a hard copy issue, or?
No, I mean it's completely free digitally. We had enough people ask for the hard copies that's an option. It's like a print on demand kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
So if people want to buy issues, they can, but otherwise it's completely free digitally. And then every issue I order one for me to sort of keep and hold on to, and ended up giving one away over the weekend, so I got to order that copy again. But
awesome.
Than that, yeah. Do we want to do the drawing real quick for the raffle?
Yeah, let's knock it out of the park here. Do we need to introduce Dayton? I feel like when you were doing your thing, I kind of gave like a half-ass intro. But if you want to take it away, Justin.
Yeah. So if anybody is, I mean, when I think of like Amazon tree boas and Corrales and stuff like that, Dayton is definitely one of the names that comes to mind. He's the owner. Yeah. You're the owner and operator of HDR Boreals, correct?
Yeah.
And you we'll get in, I guess, more Corrales stuff in a second, but definitely curious to pick your brain on that some more. I've kept some on and off over the years, mostly entirely just Amazons, but there's some other, like Ruschenberger Eye and some other stuff I really want to get into eventually, but we can dig into that in a second.
I like all the Corrales, and I've kept some at one point or another. So.
No. Facebooks.
Justin, are you wearing a Glock hoodie?
I am.
It's awesome. Where did you get that?
I've had it for a long time.
That's cool, man.
All my other ones are in the washing machine. So.
Dan Colgan says, "Evil little shits. They are, and we love them."
Yeah, I don't mind because I don't really hold my animals that much. I just like to look at them.
The attitude's kind of half the fun. Like, it's sort of the endearing quality of them. Like that pissed off old like grandpa or uncle that hates everybody. You know,
I love it.
When you expect it, it's like, okay, it's kind of adorable. But
and like, I'm not a boa guy at all. Like, I just, other than Epicrates and stuff like that, I've never been a boa guy. But I love Amazons, man. They're spunky. They have character. Like, they're great.
Yeah, I really like sort of their body structure and everything, and the variety of colors that they come in is pretty much unmatched. So.
Oh yeah, it's a kaleidoscope.
Yeah,
that's why they have a book called Kaleidoscope Tree Boas.
Do they really?
Yeah.
Oh, now I feel like a moron.
I thought that's where you were going with that.
No. It's just, wow. All right. Now I gotta get that book. Great.
Yeah, I've had a few on and off over the years, and that was one species. There was an issue of reptiles. I want to say around 2003 that had a big article on Amazons, and I remember that after reading that, I was very interested in them, and I did a ton of like reading online and whatnot. Didn't actually get one for a lot of years after, but there's just something about that head and stuff, and the colors, and I mean even the garden phase is just that sort of just odd mosaic like maze of a pattern and stuff on the heads, and I don't know, there's something about them that was
yeah, even like the most normal that you can get sort of garden variety Amazon it's pretty unique looking compared to like just the base form of other snakes. There's a lot more differences there, and
I never really had anything too crazy. Like I didn't have any of the tigers or the leopards or anything like that. I just had some nice colored ones and stuff on and off over the years, and me and Jake went in on a trio would have been 2 years ago, and we ended up losing those just over time. So, but after that, I was like, there was kind of like Antaresia for me. I was kind of like, all right, I'm not going to go out of my way to get into these again. Like I said, Ruschenberger Eye are definitely at the top of my list, just because of especially the really high black ones. They're almost like the Corrales equivalent of the Jansen Eye.
Yeah, and the blacktail rat snake.
Yeah.
Yeah, they look similar in coloration.
And I've got a pair of those, and I love them, so it's kind of a natural.
Yeah, you do.
The Ruschenberger are neat. They have really big scales compared to the other Corrales, basically. So it looks interesting when you see them.
Yeah, so what was your like? What got you into Corrales? Because I mean, that's mostly your focus, right? Like you don't.
Yeah, pretty much Amazon tree boas. I've kept northern emeralds. I've had a basin. I've had a pair of Ruschenbergeri. I haven't had any annulatus yet, but I am looking to sort of diversify out into the other members of the genus again. Make a push to do that. But I kind of stumbled across Amazons in my search to pick up a species to work with, and I was aware of northern emerald tree boas, and I kind of held them as like the pinnacle of reptile keeping, or snake keeping, and at the time, and they still can be kind of tricky, but at the time, they were really hard to keep in captivity, and that kind of scared me away. A lot of the issues with that, and I happened to stumble across the Amazon tree boas. They're in the same genus. They have some similar physical features, and they come in a lot of different colors. So
yeah, it's literally like if there's a, I mean, minus blues, if there's a color you want, they pretty much come in it. And you don't see too many. Like I've seen a handful of gardens that were like that sort of just odd, not necessarily like a mint green, but like I wouldn't even call it an olive either, but
the gray,
kind of. Like let me see. There's a picture on Google I always think of when I think of those, and I mean it could be completely photoshopped. I don't. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe it's in one of the books I have, but it was just every time I've never really seen many others like it, but it's literally like a freaking mint.
Yeah.
It wasn't a cross or anything.
Yeah. I did recently pick up one of those, Amazon Emerald Hybrid. That's kind of interesting. But
yeah, those, like, I've heard that those don't reproduce very well. Is there like anything behind that?
I don't have any personal experience with it. This is like my first one. But some of the other keepers that have kept Corrales for a while and used to keep Corrales back in the day, there was a few more of them. There were some captive breedings that produced them, and from what I've heard, they weren't very healthy. They had health issues, hard to get established, stuff like that. Didn't live very long, and I'm not sure if they're capable of reproducing. It seems like that's no on that. Like they seem to be infertile. So I don't really have any breeding plans for it. It's just my pet snake, and I want to observe its behavior and see how it goes through its color change and everything like that. So yeah, that's a hybrid right there.
Yeah, they're cool looking.
Yeah,
really like some of the other sort of oddball hybrids of like the balls and bat eaters. Like you can kind of see both ends of that pretty clearly. Like it's a nice combination of the two.
I've barely had mine, and I'm even like noticing sort of like behavioral things where I was like, oh, that's sort of like it's got a little bit of both in certain behaviors, and like its preference for the way it perches, it's not really liking the mesh that I normally use for my Amazons, and it likes to perch more on like parallel branches and on its water bowl and stuff like that, more like an emerald.
Those colors are just amazing.
Yeah, our buddy Billy, he does carpondros, and he talks about how, given the amount of percentage of chondro to carpet, dictates sort of how it behaves. Like the ones that have more carpet in them tend to act more like carpets, and the ones that have more chondro in them tend to act more like chondros. So, wonder if that'd be the similar case with those.
Seems like it so far. So what do you guys keep?
Everything.
Yeah?
Yeah. Morelia and colubrids, North American stuff, venomous, everything. Except for boas. I don't have any boas right now.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Man.
He's in Florida. They get to do whatever they want as long as they take the time to get the hours in.
Yeah. Dane, where are you out of?
Portland, Oregon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool, man.
Yeah,
You West Coast guys are awesome. Got so much different variety than us East Coast guys.
There definitely seems to be sort of like a split. It's like people that go to like the big shows on the East Coast, like they sort of like congregate together, even online, and like they do business with each other and stuff like that. I don't know. There's some sort of separation.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing, but it's definitely unique seeing the different collections and like the way that people have their stuff it really is East Coast, West Coast. It's pretty cool. Now we have social media, so we all get to jive together,
Yeah.
It's awesome.
East Coast, West Coast rap.
You know it. So Justin, what do you keep?
Phil's got a little bit of everything. I got mostly, it's sort of like 50% chondros, like 70% bears, rat, snakes, and then there's some Brettles pythons, the Jansenii, some Boiga.
Long story short,
random scrub.
Long story short, we just keep what we like, hodgepodge everything.
Do you have issues with that? And like the way you set the way you keep them, is it hard to keep such a diverse collection? Does it make it more difficult on you?
No, but I think that Justin and I also have species that are not that picky when it comes to environmental conditions.
Mm.
Okay.
I would say that although we do have, everything from vastly different regions. Yeah.
It was a little off, as a guess.
A little off.
Estimation.
It was a shot in the dark. Although we do have stuff from completely different ecosystems. Excuse me. The temperature is still pretty the same. The humidity is relatively the same. The care is relatively the same. So I think I don't know if we do that on purpose or subconsciously. I don't know.
I mean, there's definitely stuff that requires a little bit more attention to detail than others. Like the Brettles, which we've said a million times, that's like the most unkillable snake probably on the planet.
Totally.
The bears, rats are kind of the same way. It's like they're going to be fine kind of regardless of what you set them at. And then the Boiga and the Jansenii, those need a little more fine-tuned sort of attention. And I like to balance out sort of the headache-inducing species with the leisure enjoyment. Like the stress levels sort of equal each other out.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah, Cox said it's coming from a guy who had to stuff his lizards in a wine cooler.
That's true. That is very true. Thank you, Ryan. I love you.
Speaking of, I finished that episode of Lizard Brain Radio today, and it was very good. I enjoyed it.
Well, thank you very much. I felt so... I guess I'm losing my voice tonight, guys. Sorry. I felt so bad that I was late. I really did. And
did you watch the first 10 minutes?
Well, I didn't watch it,
just
but
Bill?
I listened to it this morning on my way to work, and He held his own, man. The guy's great. I love Bill. He's an awesome guy, man. And like, of course, we bullshit after the show, and I never realized how much lizard stuff I've done. And I like after the show, I was like going through the Rolodex in my mind of like, man, I kept a shitload of lizards that I didn't even talk about. And like, I feel like there's so much more that I forgot. Like I used to have blackthroats. I used to have Doomeril monitors. Like I had a whole monitor kick that I was on. And then I had blackthroats. I got one guy out in my parents' house. We couldn't find him. And he was in a box of board games and like all these crazy stories I'm thinking about. And it's awesome.
I couldn't stay awake. I tried to, dude. I was so exhausted from Atlanta and stuff that.
Oh yeah. You
like I was almost in tears laying in bed though when you were saying how you wanted an axolotl as a kid, because I was like, that's just
my
the most
God,
anti-Phil thing I've ever heard in my life.
I really did. And I remember too is that get this, before I moved to Florida, my mom finally I forgot to add this in the story. My mom finally agreed to let me get an axolotl. And we went to the pet shop and they had been banned in New Jersey. And the pet shop that got the axolotls, wherever they bought them from, they had to send them back. And I was so bummed.
Devastated.
Meanwhile, now, my roommate, Peter, he went on an axolotl kick for a while. And, dude, it was so cool because we share our snake room. And half the room was tanks with actual, like, saltwater chillers and stuff and piping and hoses. And it was crazy. And then he realized that it was way more than he wanted to do, and he got out of it, too. So...
I mean, they're cool. I don't really understand sort of what the hype is about, but I also have done next to no looking into them as far as what they're all about. And I know you have to keep them cold. Like that's about it. Like the water needs to be cooler temperatures. So
yeah, and dude, I was like 6 years old, 7 years old. What the hell do I know?
Yeah. So. I had a red-eyed tree frog as a kid, and I kept it in a small like. One of those 2.5 gallon aquariums, I think. Might have even been a 1 gallon. It was tiny. And I put a heat lamp on top.
Ooh.
Open screen top. Like I freaking this was extra crispy, not original recipe. Like, dude, that thing was freaking crunchy.
Sizzled.
That was the first and last red-eyed I've ever had.
And Austin, thanks for the compliment, Austin. He said he liked the humid hides from the Instagram video.
I missed that, man. I didn't catch that.
It's on the page.
I caught the last. Oh, is it like an IGTV video?
Yeah, it's IGTV.
Okay, I caught the last like 30 seconds when you were like, "Thanks for tuning in." Bye. I was like, yeah, sure.
Well, all right. So I messed up. Right, I got a new iPhone, and the new iPhones don't have headphone jacks or microphone jacks. So I wound up getting the lapel mic that plugs into the lightning jack. So I'm all excited about this friggin' microphone, right? And it sounds so good. It sounds so crisp and clear. And I set the phone up on the gimbal because I'm like, all right, cobras, spitting cobras. I need to be on my game. I don't want to be having to hold the phone or hold the gimbal. So I set the thing up, but the cord, there's not enough space. And it's touching the gimbal, and the gimbal's like, and like it's like freaking out. I'm like, oh no! So I had to unplug it. So I thought to myself, I'm like, all right, if I turn the camera up, if I turn the phone upside down, then the cord will come out the top, and I'll have plenty of clearance. So the first video I did, it was upside down, and like Dominique was there, and Andy Middleton's like, dude, you're upside down. So I deleted that video, and I was like, let's try it again. But it's cool, man. I like it.
Yeah, I'm excited for the channel and the venomous etiquette stuff, and
I know I gotta get my ass in gear, man. I gotta throw something out there because I feel like people are chomping at the bit, which is super flattering.
You're overhyping it, man.
I know that's the problem. That's the problem. That's the problem.
So, if anybody has listened to me talk about Amazons in the past, then you know that they are my pick for the worst musk ever.
No way.
Randy said Justin wants to know how you put up with the Amazon musk, Dayton. This is horrible. It smells like burnt rubber and burnt hair.
It is pretty bad, but it's kind of like all I know, So I don't really have a whole lot to compare it to. uh, yeah, I try to avoid it, as much as I can. But it happens, especially when you have to sex a bunch of, neonates and stuff like that. But I mean, the adult stuff is definitely worse than the young ones. But I don't have to handle them as much, so that happens less often.
Cox asked if they're really that bad. I think they are. Like, I have yet to find a musk that makes me go, oh my god.
I've heard that the what are they? The Caribbean boas, they're pretty bad. I heard that their musk is pretty bad, and they kind of just smear it around and stuff, willy nilly. So like the Dominican red mountain boas and the Jamaican boas and stuff like that. But I don't have any personal experience with that.
I don't know. I mean, I've kept a lot of stuff, but Amazon's just every time I smell it, I'm like, God damn, it's just so bad. And it's because I don't know. Like I think the male in the trio that me and Jake went in on together, he was especially bad about it. Like if you touched him at all, it was like you were getting it. Anytime I had to clean tubs or anything, it was expected.
Yeah, it sucks when you just like got a freshly cleaned tub and then you gotta kind of fiddle with the snake a little bit to get it back in the cage, and then it musks and you're like, God,
clinging to the edge.
Damn.
And
yeah.
So Randy says that, to be honest, he feels the wild caught Amazon musk smells worse. It could be the crypto. and I'm assuming it's Jeff. Jeff says that Lyasis musk is wonderful and the ladies love it. I'm gonna have to piss off the water pythons later and put a little behind the collarbone.
6% of the time it works every time.
Yeah, that's it. Wow.
So their musk is bad, but I think in terms of like projectile, like urates and stuff, that scrub that I got from you is, if I touch him, like literally if I touch his tail or anything, it's like a cannon, dude. I moved him into that cage this morning. I didn't do anything. I moved him out of that cage this morning. He decided to go into one of my racks and then into like the bottom of one of my little dresser drawer things that I store a bunch of junk in. And then as I was trying to get him out, as he was coming out the other side, I saw him like shoot urates like all over the carpet. And
which type of scrub do you have?
It's a Tannenbar.
Oh, okay.
Bro,
I heard those are nasty.
They are.
I had that snake for 8-9 months, easy, and he was totally fine. He never musked. He never struck. He gave me the cockeyed look every once in a while, but I told you I used to let him. He would wrap around my bicep. I'd clean the cage. I'd put him back like it was cool, and then I give him to you, and now you know what it is? He misses me. That's what it is.
Oh, totally.
He totally does.
I think
freaking maniac.
Snakes, sometimes the way they react depends on the way you interact with them. Because I've got a buddy who can he can free handle any snake he'll just reach in and grab it and pull it out and it's fine. And then the minute you try to do that, it's latched onto you and chomping down.
I mean, I can work around him for the most part, but if he's out and about and doing stuff, he either bolts or he just sits there and just continues to throw jabs. And I read an article too that was like, Tannenbars, these are the most calm of all the scrubs and they're so easy to work with, whatever. And then I get this one and it's like, holy crap. If he's not bolting like one of the Ganyasoma are, he's just going to sit there and not let me get near him to get him back into whatever he's in. It's just like, it's a friggin' skirmish every time. It's like, makes the Jansenite look easy to move.
Remember, man, when you go in there, you just got to be like Bruce Lee. You just got to be liquid, water, smooth, cool, very relaxed. Give him the treadmill, and all will be well.
Heat-seeking missiles, dude. That ain't happening.
Yeah, he is a bit of a heat-seeking missile, but he never did that with me.
They're freaking accurate too. Like their range. I remember the first when I had him in quarantine still. He somehow, I was cleaning or something. He got out and he was in the closet and he was all up in the coat hangers and my wife's clothes. She doesn't know that, so. But like I remember trying to get him out of that, and he just like I had a shorter hook. I usually tend to use shorter hooks just out of personal preference, and I had him and he struck and he came. I don't know. He was probably 5 or so inches from nailing me in the chest. And you underestimate how far they can reach because they throw like half their freaking body. You know, it's like, good God.
The good thing about Amazons is they're very clumsy, super slow and inaccurate.
Like the most narcoleptic strikers where they're like half asleep and they're just the wimpy, exhausted kid that's like, man, just leave me alone.
Yeah.
You know, just like, I'm just going to throw something.
You kind of have to be not paying attention or really trying to get bit. It doesn't happen too often.
Does the scrub sleep underwater at all or no?
No.
Dude, I don't know why he did that with me. It wasn't the mites. Don't say that. Don't say that. It wasn't the mites. But no, man, he would sleep underwater. It was crazy.
He doesn't do that. I've never seen him in his water. He was in his water bowl for like one day when I first brought him home. Never seen him in his water bowl since.
How big is his water bowl?
The same size, if not bigger, than what you had.
Okay.
He was dying from blood loss, Cox said.
Jesus, Cox. Just send it to Andy.
I was going to say, Andy just said send it to him. Andy can, I'll gladly trade that scrub for one of those Oakdale combos.
Breed it to a Clastolepis and be done with it.
Totally pass it off as like pure. It's Clastolepis all the way.
No, man.
Like
Dude, that would be an awesome hybrid. That'd be an awesome hybrid.
It would be pretty interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Tannenbar pattern.
Mites, Phil.
Moluccan, coloration. Yeah, I hate you all.
I would like to breed them. I just need to find a female because apparently having a patterned and exanthic Tannenbar out of like the 3 phases, that's the hardest to come across. Like they're either patternless exanthics or they're regular patternless or they're regular patterned, and then there's the
you're welcome. You're welcome.
So I don't know. Oh, Dan just said he lit a Melanio to make room for the win because apparently he's pretty confident that he's winning this raffle.
Oh, we got to do that still, don't we?
We do. So I will.
Let's kick the tires and light the fires.
Let's do it real quick. So this is the random number generator. Just so everyone sees, I'm putting in 25. We ready?
And do it.
16. That is my pops.
Your actual dad?
Yeah.
Papa Smith? I love it.
Yep.
All right. Congratulations, Papa Smith. Is he watching?
Look at that. I don't know.
Okay. That makes it easy.
Yeah, I mean, that's another $20 that I don't have to put towards shipping. That goes to the Highlands and Islands Conservatory. So
awesome.
And then, actually, if he doesn't want the decals or the ashtray, I can do another one, and we'll see. If someone wants the ashtray, we can do a second raffle because he doesn't smoke in his truck, so I don't think that's gonna.
All right. Well, why don't you do this? Is he still awake? Call him right now.
No, I'll just draw another one if he doesn't.
Okay. I would say we should get him on here. Get him
Good
on here.
Good luck. So we all saw it. Sorry, Dan.
Next time, Dan.
He said shady. My dad paid for 2 tickets just like everyone else. Just saw me put it in the random generator.
Yep.
I put out the Melanio and lit a Newport.
Got me on that one. Oh, Jesus.
So, let me see. Let me look at PayPal and see how much we have raised for Highlands and Islands Conservatory. Doing really good stuff with Guatemalan palm pit vipers, Jamaican boas, I believe, and like lepidus and clobberi. rock rattlesnakes and stuff. So
Cool.
we raised $298 and change.
Wow.
And Warwick is here.
Yay.
Look at that guy.
Welcome to the party, pal.
You're both Amazon guys. Do you know Dayton?
I follow Dayton. I've never met him before. Hi, Dayton. My name's Austin.
Look at that.
Hey, how's it going?
I wouldn't call myself an Amazon guy either. I just got into him last year. I'm just like dipping my toes in. Dabbling, yeah.
Austin, the beard is looking triumphant, my friend.
Yeah, I've got kind of a mask line going on. I had to wear a mask. I had to go to the doctor today. So
you got to get one of them beard, covers that they sell.
I usually wear a bandana, but I figured since I was going to the doctor, I should wear like a legit mask because I don't want the vid.
Yep.
In any form.
In any form. Oof.
All right. I just texted my dad a little bit. He won.
Now, Justin, is that the most that we've raised for a conservation group?
That is currently. So that is the record at the moment. I'm about to send it to Justin right now.
Awesome. Awesome possum. Austin, what are you smoking, man?
The Alec Bradley Magic Toast.
Hey.
I had just pulled it out of the package and snipped the end when Justin said that's what he was smoking. My wife got it for me for my birthday. So
nice. When was your birthday?
The 30th of December.
Oh, happy belated.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's see.
So whatever this Liga is, it's burning really funny. Like it wants to canoe on me, but I'm not letting it. You know what I mean?
What do you mean you don't know what it is?
Mm-mm. You were off camera when I was explaining. So I don't remember where I was, but I saw a number 9 and it was a weird shape. It was like a bellicoso, but it had like a toro length to it. So I grabbed it and I just noticed it was getting a little plume on it. So I was like, let me smoke this now. I really have no idea what it is.
It had like the almost like a very mild torpedo.
No, it was still rounded, but it was like long, and it was longer than a normal bellicoso, but it wasn't as thick a gauge as a toro.
It's not the Corona.
I mean, it may be. I don't know. I don't think I've ever got.
What was?
I don't remember. It was many moons ago. Long enough for it to get some plume.
I really dug that warped Grand Reserve 1988, man. I'd buy a box of those damn things.
I wish we could get the Cortos back in because those Cortos are like the best cigar that they make. They're small, but damn it, man, those things are delicious.
I was gonna smoke that tonight too. It's good shit.
Really good. I guess from the little research I did, it's like comes from the Jalapa region of Nicaragua. Is that correct?
Yeah, Jalapa.
Yeah, well, that's probably the proper way of saying it, right?
Jalapa.
Jalapa. We're from Texas. We have them jalapenos,
Yeah.
But
quesadillas.
Had a Monte Cristo Espada, and it's from the same region.
Those are really good too.
That was legit. I like that a lot.
Yeah, it's a great smoke. Great smoke. What size is Espada?
Oh shit! Let me go grab my. I've got my little cigar dossier. I'll tell you. Let me go get it.
Yeah, man.
Oh, I forgot he got that dossier.
How long have you guys been smoking cigars?
Oof, 20 years now.
It seems like you guys have like a pretty good like base knowledge of like.
Well, I'll put it this way. I'm definitely the amateur. I would say
I'm a complete novice. I just started like dictating what I smoke so that I can learn. That's pretty much it.
Austin, did you end up getting Cigar Scanner or no?
No, I went and I should get that, but I've been kind of digging the whole writing it down, like old school version,
Yeah.
So it was a 6x50 torpedo. Yeah, it was a 6x50.
That's a great smoke. Great smoke.
I went into a cigar shop the other day to get a couple of cigars. This was probably before I even joined the Snakes and Stogies group or whatever, and it was just for like the holidays or something. And it's like my first time being in like a legit like tobacco shop.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
and I just like I don't know anything about it, so I was like, hey, can you like tell me? Can you like pick a couple out for me?
Yeah, steer you in the right direction.
Yeah, steer me in the right direction. Like, I've got dinner plans. We're thinking about having a steak and some wine and stuff like that. Can you pick something out for me? Yeah. And so like he showed me around and he's like, talking to me about some of these things. And then he's like, are you thinking about getting in the hobby? And I was like, the hobby? But like I can see now like how far it can go,
It's freakishly similar to wine.
Yeah, my wife just got me that thing.
Very similar to wine, just in terms of like the different territories, awesome. Different regions it's grown, different kinds of tobacco, what part of the planet's coming from. Yeah, I mean, there's way more to it than people realize. But I mean, even then, I've only been in cigars for like I just only started smoking. It's probably only been like 6 or 7 years. But I mean, it's cool. It's definitely like I'm at a point now where it's almost like Pavlov's dog, where like I eat a big meal and it's like I'm already like looking for my cutter and my lighter. It's like I gotta have something, especially after something like that, something dark and heavy. Like an LFD double Lajero or something. It's like you want something that's just gonna like punch you in the face.
So I just
that's a long smoke right there.
I just did the math. It's 17 years.
That lavacado.
And for anybody who wants to know, the January sampler is going to be dropping on the 15th. So I will only have 20 of those. So just letting everybody know, 15th when they're coming out. I figured I'd space it out with everything else. Try and not pile all the raffle stuff on everything. So.
I missed December, so count me in for one of them. Austin, so in the dossier, those bands, were those yours that you adhered in there?
Yeah, I just took a piece of packing tape after I got done smoking it and just stuck them on there. I was going to glue, and I was like, what if it gets all like sticky and the pages stick together? So I was like, fuck, I'll just use packing tape. So.
Or better yet, I've seen ones where they give you an adhesive, and then over the years, because it's on paper and you turn the pages, it cracks, and then the bands fall off and you lose them. And
yeah, I figured the packing tape would hold up. So it looks kind of janky, I guess, but I don't know. It keeps water off of it, and the pages don't stick together. So
yeah, man, I love it. Looks good.
Yeah, I get that a lot at work. It's people come in, they're like, I had this cigar the other day, and they're like, I wish I'd kept the band, and they're trying to like describe it to me. They're like, it was dark, it was short.
It was tobacco.
Yeah, it was tobacco. I lit it on fire.
Yeah.
And they're like, do you know what that... I'm like, what color was the band? Like red, which, every freaking cigar band in the industry has red on it to some degree, so that doesn't narrow it down. It was just...
it had a little sticker on the back with a barcode on it.
Yeah. It was made in the Americas.
Right.
But how many Amazons do you have now, Austin?
4. One wild caught red phase male with an orange head, and then one sexed female. She's gonna end up being a bicolor. I bought her as patternless, but she's gonna end up being a bicolor. She's got a decent amount of freckling on her back. And then I picked up one from damn it, why am I? S&J Reptiles, Ian Bissell.
Ian.
It was a patternless from a citrus line, and it's going to be a bicolor, but it's really like very minimal freckling and some really screaming oranges, like mango colored oranges. And then I got a male orange tiger phase from Nick Mutton.
I forget Nick even does those.
Most people do.
He does so much other stuff, though. It's hard to keep. Like, I feel like there's a whole bunch of stuff we don't even like know about that he has.
Yeah, he's definitely, he keeps it quiet.
Yeah, you have to kind of know. Yeah, you kind of have to know.
How many do you have? Like, what's your collection looking like, Dayton, as far as numbers and?
I think last time I counted, 70 something.
Ooh, good God.
Yeah.
Straight Amazons or?
I think that was my total snakes, but I don't have a whole lot of other stuff. I do keep some like boa constrictor. I don't even know if I actually have any. I don't have any constrictor, but I've got imperator and what's the other one? Sigma.
Oh,
I'd like to get some Longicata. That's on my list.
We all want Longicata.
Yeah, I like those.
Yeah.
I've got some Hog Islands. I've got some Costa Rican from Warren Booth. And then I've got some Sonoran boas that have the leopard gene.
Cool.
Yeah.
The only other boa besides my Amazons are I've got a pair of Dumerals. That's it. Everything else is pythons. Some colubrids sprinkled in there.
I went through a pretty hardcore phase in Nicaraguan boas. I don't know what it was about Nicaraguans in particular that just it's like that odd, like they had this burgundy red on the tail that just reminded me of like old globes and like leather bound books. It was like, I don't know, when I'd look at it, I felt like I was at like a Pier 1 Imports or something. And it just like it always stuck with me. But they're
I can see that, man. Completely.
yeah, and the color change, like when they'd be darker, they'd be lighter and stuff. That was really, I don't think people realize how much they will change color wise, just in terms of firing up and firing down. But Matt Most says or asks, do your Amazons spend more time on the ground or perched?
I would say they spend the majority of the time perched, but there are some in particular that will spend a good deal of time on the ground. Sort of like 50-50, probably 60-40, something like that, you know. So it's not uncommon.
Yeah, I definitely noticed they, instead of like, you know, chondros or emeralds, you know, where they're fine with just like one sort of perch, they like multiple points. Like that netting and that mesh, that garden stuff that people use for neonates and stuff especially, and things like that, they seem to definitely prefer almost like a, not necessarily a shelf, but like just options where they're being touched by multiple spots on the
drape.
perch.
Yeah,
like draping kind of. That's what mine do mainly.
Yeah, I use a lot of like natural perches for my older animals, grapevine, sticks I've cut, cork bark, stuff like that.
Do you guys
find
they
like those cork bark rounds on the perches, like to squeeze up into them? That's what I've heard a lot of people use. Mine aren't big enough to do that yet, but right now I'm just using the like paper towel tubes and for my younger ones. My big adult male is in a bioactive enclosure, but my younger three are in like 16 quart tubs with those 3D printed carpet perches that fit right in there, and then those paper towel tubes. That I was going to mess around with that cork bark on a perch. I thought that looked pretty cool. It seems like they like it a lot from what I've seen.
Yeah, they'll definitely get in there and get under it or in it, or tuck themselves in.
Do you guys find that they do more perching low to the ground? Like they're still low in the enclosure, but they're off the ground, or are they more higher up, more like legitimately arboreal when they are up there?
When they're up, I would say they're up. I guess it kind of depends on the options that you give them, but I would say for the majority of the time, they're up in like a back corner, just out of the way.
Yeah, that's my big male gets up into the back corner by the heat panel, and then he gets up into his arboreal hide. He's almost all like completely arboreal. I don't ever see him on the ground, but my the juveniles that I have, they get in their tube on the ground and they utilize the ground quite a bit. So,
do you notice the difference in terms of that preference with captive bred versus wild caught animals?
I haven't had a whole lot of wild caught animals. I've had a couple of them, like over my span of keeping them.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't really noticed much of a difference, no.
Okay. No, my thoughts on like wild caught Amazons has kind of changed lately. Like they're not impossible to get established and get going. You know, like they're not necessarily difficult, but I do think you're making your life a good bit easier. You know, just like with chondros, like you're making your life way easier if you're just going ahead and starting with captive bred.
Yeah, I would say 100%. And there's really, unless it's like a one of a kind animal, you know, we have all the phenotypes and everything like that available in like a captive population, and the majority of the time, you know, it's going to be better quality anyway. You might even have some idea of how its color change will develop as it matures because of the parents and stuff like that. So, yeah, 100% captive born if you can, unless it's like a really unique animal.
Like like can't pass it up, kind of 1 in a million.
And even then, you wouldn't. I wouldn't want someone to snag that animal that's like, oh, hey, I'm thinking about getting into Amazon tree boas. Let me get this, you know, wild caught animal.
Yeah, I think it also goes down to like fresh import boiga too, because it's eliminating the stress factor. You know, letting them chill out in the beginning and let them relax and get their bearings, and then start working with them. Because so many people are like, oh, I just smack it in the face with food, you know, and it'll bite it. So I think that has a lot to do with it too.
Yeah, you see that with Hortulanus, you see that with Gonyosoma, you see that with Boiga. Like they're all the one sort of common denominator with those is that they're all fairly high strung animals to begin with. You know, doesn't take much to get them going, doesn't take much to get them stressed out. And so I would agree that it is one of those things where it's like get them in, ignore them for 2 weeks after you have them set up and ready to go and everything, and then, you know, maybe offer food. Might like think about offering food at that point.
Yeah.
My first one that I purchased was that red phase male, this wild caught, and definitely not the move. I mean, I had a little experience establishing wild caught stuff, but they are like you said, so high strung that like if you go in there and offer food too early, they're so defensive that they get freaked out, and then they're just running, and you're not getting. There's nothing positive coming from that at all. You're not.
Yeah, right.
Then they just had a negative experience, and the next time you go try to feed them, it's going to be that much more difficult. So,
that's how it is with chondros. You know, same thing. Like people always end up buying the imported Biak from a show or something, and it's like if you've kept chondros and you've dealt with that kind of stuff before, to where it's, you know, you're not going to mess. You know what to do to get it on the up and up. Like it's no big deal. But if it's like your first chondro, you're almost guaranteed to have a lot of headaches, you know.
Possible tragedy.
Yeah, likely tragedy, I think.
Have you guys ever done
killed a lot of chondros?
I mean, we've all done that in some degree or another, but I was going to say, so have you guys ever done the covering the cage with a sheet or newspaper and just covering up and excuse me, we've always done that with a lot of the import stuff, and then when it's feeding time, you know, you just kind of peel the curtain back, throw in some prey item, and close it, and just leave it be. You know,
like you were never there. Yeah,
like I was never there. Yeah.
My first Apodora was real defensive and did a lot of smashing on the glass and stuff, and I had to just pretty much tape the whole front of the enclosure with newspaper until it kind of got acclimated. It stopped doing it eventually, but it just was incredibly defensive, and so yeah, it does help to kind of block that visual stimulation. So
yeah.
One thing I've noticed that you might want to take into consideration when purchasing like a wild caught animal. So my experience is sort of limited with that, but I would like to kind of like expand on that a little bit.
Sure.
But I've gotten one adult female wild caught Amazon tree boa, and she's been relatively problem free and wasn't hard to get situated or established. But I haven't been able to get her to reproduce for me. And I've had males, breed her. And I think that getting an adult animal, in even a captive bred one, the females really take a long time to adjust for breeding.
Mm-hmm.
At least in my experience, because I've even done breeding loans with people where they've sent me animals, and it's taken me several years before I actually produce a litter from like their females, and even that, my results weren't great with like fertility and everything like that. So, yeah, the sooner you can buy it, the younger it is. The longer you have it in your collection, the better, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Do you
I
think with
100%
some of
agree.
those? Do you think with some of those, like a wild caught female, do you think it's coming from like because you're coming from the southern hemisphere to the northern hemisphere and their cycles all that kind of thing, or is it you think it's just strictly stress?
I'm not. I wouldn't say that. I don't think it's that because these animals, the animals I got on loan weren't wild caught. They were captive born. They were captive bred. They were, a state next to me, so they were from someone I knew in person, like traveling across the United States or anything like that. And I still had issues with that. Receiving those adult females, getting them situated, even though they ate and they didn't have any health issues or anything like that. I had fertility issues. I had, it took me a considerable amount of time to get them to even reproduce anything for me.
Okay.
Let me ask you this.
I've heard similar things with female chondros having the same problems, where for whatever reason, if they're older, you send them, you got to wait at least a year before you even pair them, because they don't seem to take well to the move.
Yeah, I'm sure there are people that have had a different story, but that's my experience, and it's not with like one or two; it's with quite a few animals that I've had that.
Let me ask you this: of the animals, of the females that you did establish, and then in time they produced, did you notice an increase in fecundity at the years that progressed? Like, were the litter sizes greater and greater as time went on, or was it consistently around the same?
So these are animals I've produced, or you're just strictly talking about the breeding loan? Or
no, I was saying just your animals in general that you produce. So like you said that the females are harder to establish regardless if they're wild caught or not, in terms of getting them to your facility and getting the ball rolling. Did you notice an increase in litter size as time went on? Like the first time you were successful with female A, she only had 5 offspring. And then the next time you bred her, it was 7 offspring. And the next time it was 10 offspring, or was it always around the same ballpark of litter size?
There's certain, I wouldn't say it's not uncommon for like females having their first litter to maybe have some lower fecundity than they do like the following couple litters. I do notice that like it's not like a huge difference. So if everything goes right and you're expecting a good litter and you sort of have low fertility, I would be willing to bet that female would go on to produce a larger litter the next time.
Okay.
But I do have plenty of females first time right out the gate. Give me nice, healthy, average size, or my average size litter. And then they continue to do that for the next few litters.
Cool.
What's your average size litter?
My average size litter is probably about 8. And it after I would say like 3 or 4 litters, the fertility seems to drop off. Okay. Where you might have some issues there.
See, they're so common in the wild, though. I mean, you got to wonder Like what's missing? You know?
Yeah, and like, importers get them in while they're gravid. They get gravid while they're being imported and have litters. So I don't know. That's just my experience.
It could also be selective mate, choosing the right partner. Maybe they're more choosy than other species,
I have noticed that as well. It doesn't always work out between a male and female, and both of those animals can go on to reproduce with separate animals if you just swap the pairing out. I've had animals like refuse to breed each other for several seasons, and I've just been stubborn and like, no, this is the pair that I want. Like, I'm not going to pair them up. I'm not going to pair that female to a different male, and that female just doesn't reproduce, even though that male will go on and breed other females and such.
Yeah.
Do they? Will males like combat? Can you put two males in with a female and have them compete? Have you ever done that, like to stimulate?
Yeah. So I would say it's probably better to maybe put one male in, let him crawl around the cage a little bit, maybe like mist it down, take him out, and then put the other male in. That'll still stimulate the male that you want in there, because he'll smell that the male has just been in there, and that'll sort of stimulate him. But if you put two males in there, what can happen is, the male you want to use might not be the dominant male, in which case he'll get really freaked out, and even if you remove the other male, he won't want to breed the female.
Okay, I gotcha.
Yeah, so he'll still be trying to get away even after you remove the other male.
Okay.
So I prefer not to do that. They do combat. I've had them, constrict each other. I haven't had any bites, but some real wrestling and constricting.
That's got to be awesome to watch.
Thrashing, the cage furniture around.
I've done it a little bit with Brettles and Coastals, or Bredley and Coastals. So it is cool to watch. I was just curious. I didn't know if they were kind of like a breed ball situation or if they actually kind of compete. So
yeah, you wouldn't want to leave them in there unsupervised.
Yeah, very cool.
So you don't have Rushis anymore, or you still have those?
No, I had a single pair, and I think it was in 2018. I tried to breed them, and my female died while she was gravid.
Oh man!
And so I just had the male, and I ended up trading him for some stuff.
Yeah, I think it's the Costa Ricans are the ones that either that or the Venezuelans. One of them's like really high black. They look freaking cool.
The Costa Ricans are the really more common one here in the U.S. Those are the ones that are like golden brown, and they got the black tail. You do see some like black in between the scales and stuff like that, but the Venezuelan ones are the ones that are really like boldly patterned.
Okay, that's the ones I'm thinking of then. So some of them are like almost patternless, and those don't really do much for me. But
like that one, I think right there, that's a Venezuelan, I think.
That's sick, man.
Yeah, Venezuela.
They're so cool. There's just something about high contrast animals that do it for me, man.
Well, it's the scalation too on them. It's pretty cool.
Warren and Jeff Murray have the Trinidad ones, which seem to be like a high color. But those are one of the rarest snakes in captivity. That's pretty cool how they got them and have reproduced them now.
Yeah, there's Ian's picture. I think he only had one. He had got like 2 or 3 of them, And
He's trying to get them going on like Brown and Knowles, wasn't he?
Yeah,
like
well, he
I
hatched
remember.
out some. They found some eggs in their backyard, and it turns out they incubated them, and they were basilisk eggs.
A basilisk,
So
that's what it was. Yeah.
He hatched those out, and he tried them, and he had one that started eating, and this is probably it. But the other ones, I don't know if they made it or not. But he was having a hell of a time getting those things going.
Dude, they look like Protobothrops.
Right?
Crazy. They look like Okinawas.
They're just cool, and they get big, like compared to.
That's what I was about to say.
Amazons.
Don't they get pretty large?
Yeah. Yeah, those and the Blomberg eye, which a lot of people, those aren't even in the hobby at all. But those things are sweet.
I've decided I'm going to save all my shekels for some basins. I think that's going to be my next big purchase.
Hell yeah, rock and roll.
With the way the prices on Northerns are going, it might be worth it to hang on to it a little bit longer and get some basins.
I just have always really dug basins. It's like, since I was a kid, it's like that quintessential snake on a stick to me.
Yeah, super.
Well, it doesn't hurt that they, it's nice that they don't try to take your face off every time you do anything with them too.
Mm-hmm. I've heard they tend to be a lot more docile than the Northerns. I had a Northern for a while, but it went with the whole regurg syndrome BS.
Dude,
I just decided I'm going to do captive born and bred basins if I decide to get back into emeralds. So.
Weren't we just talking about that snake a couple episodes ago?
We were literally talking about the snake a couple episodes ago. And that's what made me go back. I actually, when we first got on the show tonight, I went onto Dayton's page to find that. And I was like, wait a minute, how am I not following? So I must have fat fingered something. We were just talking about this animal because it's so freaking cool, man. That may be that may be my favorite Amazon ever.
That's a leopard, right?
Yeah, it's a liger.
Okay.
Oh,
it's a leopard tiger? Nice.
Yeah. So that's sort of like my crowning achievement so far. That was super cool. I was going in with one visual parent and a possible het tiger female. So when the first animal that popped out was a leopard, and I was super stoked. So I really kind of hit the odds on that one. And yeah, I had 5 leopards in the litter. That was one of them. Yeah, I'm really pumped about it.
I mean, dude, just look at that. Look at that animal.
It's amazing.
Yeah, that's a hypo.
Oh,
that one.
Awesome.
And has that been tied into any of the leopard or tiger stuff yet?
I've paired a hypo to a leopard and got a small litter. It really did sort of affect the way the hypo gene looks.
Mm-hmm.
Up until that point, I had been very easily, I hadn't had any trouble picking out what was hypo and what wasn't until that litter, and then I got some normal animals. So I'm not really sure if I do have a hypo 100% het, but I've got some of the offspring that I'm going to raise up and try to pair them out and make a hypo leopard or a leucistic leopard, because the leucistics do seem to be able to display some form of pattern. So I don't see why some of the morphs like leopard or tiger wouldn't work with that as well.
And I mean, are all the morphs in Amazons? Are those all simple recessives?
Tiger's dominant. Leopard's recessive. Hypo, I believe to be co-dominant or incomplete dominant. Sorry. And then you've got calico, which is recessive. But that's a color. I don't know that it's a mutation.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's so cool.
That animal's just so awesome. So awesome.
Yeah, and
It's
these
like something you'd see in a gift shop as like a rubber snake. It doesn't even look real, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
though even though this litter was pretty high contrasty for like what I've seen from leopards, they're getting pretty rare. I think one other person in like Europe produced a litter of them this year. But even though these are pretty high contrasty, they still their color changes from day to night. They really lighten up at night, and they're much darker during the daytime. But they're very metallic looking, just cool, black and silver. They've got shiny metallic eyes. Very neat animals.
Yeah, that's how on a lot of those eco tours, when they're range at night, they'll find them by eye shine.
Yeah, I mean, I go into my room, several times a day, and I do it at night often. But like when you go in there, if you don't turn the light on, you just shine a light around. There's eye shine all over the place. So that's kind of cool.
That's cool.
Oh, yeah. I saw something recently. Do you do any herping in Florida since you're there? Do you do any like field herping?
As much as I can.
You've got like invasive populations of everything, but I saw that you might have like I don't know if it's like a reproducing population or like one-offs, but people are catching Amazons in Florida.
Nah, man, it's all bull crap.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, it's all bull crap.
No, I will say I would not be surprised if someone was like, "Yeah, I found a chupacabra in Florida, or a king cobra or whatever." Like, to be like, "Yeah, probably." I mean, it's Florida.
So there is a gated community that is part of the gated community. I guess is an island itself, and it's very hoity-toity, and it's very hard to get in. You have to know someone who lives there, and they have, I believe, it's BCCs on the island, but no one can.
That's nuts.
No one can actually confirm it because only certain individuals have found them, and nobody knows if it's just like perpetuating the joke of it or if they really are there. But no one's ever shown one bigger than like 2 foot. So who knows? And at the same time, there's never roadkill. You know what I mean? And it's a pretty busy community, so you'd expect more people to be hooting and hollering about it, especially non-snake people.
Right.
So that's the new one.
It's not that out of the realm of like reality. They got you guys have monkeys down there.
No.
Yeah, that's a fact.
There's a troop of monkeys that live down there.
There's a couple. Yeah.
Florida's literally just one big game of Jumanji.
So I mean, there's a lot of invasives that are here, but they've been here a very, very, very long time. And now, because it's trending to talk about it and to show it, now it's becoming a quote-unquote issue. So, like, for example, sometime I think in the 1960s, they let pigtail tarantulas loose in the orange groves because they wanted to take care of some kind of bug that was there. And now there's orange groves that you can go to, and there's a viculara just running around rampant.
See, I think that's cool as hell, though.
But it only is
cool.
Yeah,
but
I'm with you on that one.
but it's only in the orange groves. It's not like in the neighboring communities, the neighboring fields. It's just in those trees. There's a population of Mexican red rump tarantulas in like pseudo apple orchards. I guess they were apple orchards that got abandoned because apples don't really grow too well in Florida. So I know you can go find those there, but they only live in those orchards. And again, this is all from 20, 30, 40 years ago. Obviously, you guys know about cane toads. Cane toads is probably the worst invasive we have, but it's at the point now. What is he saying?
He said list all the invasive species you know off the top of your head.
I mean, you really want me to?
Do it.
All right. Let me light the cigar. Hold on.
Yeah, I think that's like I can see where that's problematic, and especially with things like the cane toads and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I do, on the other hand, think that it's kind of cool that you could go, just out in the field and find all these, invasive species from all over the place.
Yeah, and it's never as bad, with the exception of, I'll say, with the exception of small terrestrial lizards that nobody really cares about, and cane toads. The other invasives, they're nowhere near as bad as people make them out to be. They are a problem. They are an issue. It is here, but the media makes it worse than it is. You know,
Right.
the gossip makes it worse than it is. So one of the biggest things is there's only, I think, 2 or 3 native anoles to southern Florida. That's funny.
He uses that mane and tail.
Mm-hmm. So there's only, I guess, 2 or 3 native species of anole in Florida, but they're very, very hard to find now because you've got 15 other species, maybe not 15, maybe like 6 or 7, but 15 other species of anole that have taken their place because they weren't introduced on purpose. It wasn't people's pets that they let go. It wasn't from a hurricane. It's just humans are, you know, they're movers and shakers. You know, we're so close to the Caribbean. You know, freight comes in, shipments come in. You know,
and that's what happened with Guam.
Yeah, exactly. Happened with Guam. So you have Bahamian, and I think there's a Bahamian hybrid curly tail that is rampant everywhere, but it's only on the coastline. It doesn't go inland. You've got the 15 different anoles that are all invasive, including the Cuban night anole, which, as an impressive lizard as it is, it's not supposed to be here. You've got, you've got like 3 or 4 different species of reef gecko. You've got like 3 or 4 species of house gecko. You've got tokays. There's a population of giant snails. Yeah, Matt, 100%.
Is that why those are outlawed?
Yes.
Like you can't own those
they're
anywhere.
illegal.
Yeah.
Yes. So apple snails are a major problem, and no one, and to the best of my knowledge, people have an idea of how they got here, but nobody knows really how they got here. And like, you want to talk about invasives on land, or you want to talk about invasives in the water? Because there's way more invasives in the water than there is on land.
Yeah.
I heard the water's nuts. They don't mess around with the shit that's in the water. You get in trouble. Yeah. You get in like big trouble. They don't play in Florida with that shit.
Yeah, 100%. So you've got tokay populations. You've got standing eye populations. You've got now I can't remember. You've got green and brown basilisk. Tegus are a small pocket, but they are there. Black and white Argentinian are basically Florida mutt tegus. Snakeheads. Snakeheads are oof, but snakeheads are actually down because of sport fishing.
I was about to say they're a big deal in the sport fishing community, right?
Huge
like I hear people talk about them like crazy. Like there's like a cult following just to fish those damn things.
And it's unlike any other freshwater fishing in the world because it's not fishing; it's hunting with a fishing rod. Because you have to walk the canals and keep out of the shadows, you know, because you're using street lights or the moon as your guide. Some guys use like red headlamps.
You're hunting werewolves?
Yeah, you're basically you're walking the canal.
You gotta put thriller music on,
right? You're walking the canals and you're walking at a fast pace because if you miss the fish that you're hunting, you just go to the next fish, go to the next fish, go to the next fish. And basically you have a fast line, you have a fast surface lure, no weight, and basically you're going to see the fish or see its nest with its fry, and you're going to bang that hook down and run it quick. And then if you get a hit, great. If you scare them off, keep walking to the next line. So I don't snakehead fish with my roommate because I can't keep up.
Do people eat them?
Oh, yeah, man.
Edibles?
I've heard they're pretty good. They're pretty good eating, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, people fry them up like gator nuggets, you know, but going back to terrestrial stuff, one of the biggest, most famous ones is veil chameleons. And there's a few places that you can find wild populations of veil chameleons. I've done it. I've found them. It's pretty freaking cool. But you don't go looking for them anymore unless you know the people that live there, because a individual was actually shot and killed because of veil chameleons. Yeah. Wow. The story goes.
Also the South, people are weird about their trespassing and land and stuff.
So, Ryan Cox, I have looked for knifefish, and I have some friends that catch them, and they get some monster game knifefish. I can't find them. I've tried. But just going back to the veileds, there was a particular guy out west of me who had a cricket farm, and he crickets for bait. And he was also into reptiles, and he had a bunch of veiled chameleons he let go on his property to just eat crickets, because there's just billions of crickets. And people would go there, and he told them, listen, you can take whatever chameleons you want on the other side of my fence. If you come in my yard, then you're trespassing. Please don't do that. Respect my, wishes.
You're going to get got.
And I remember there was even a bunch of kids that went, they were like high school kids, and knocked on his door and was like, hey, we want some chameleons. Can we have some? And he put like handfuls of adult veileds in a bucket for them and was like, here you go, kid.
Jeez, dude.
Yeah.
That's insane.
And then one night, some guys went there, and he had spur-thigh tortoises. He had adult sulcatas, and they stole one of his tortoises. So he posted signs, said no trespassing. He talked to local law enforcement, says, listen, everybody comes to my property, I'm acting accordingly. And some kid went on there to catch chameleons, and they shot him and killed him.
Jeez.
Mm-hmm. Which is crazy too, because if you're from Florida, you know that you don't go on farmland unless you've been invited or you're going about it in the right direction.
Yep.
Because I've
Same
had
in Texas.
Same in Texas, yeah.
Same thing. Yeah,
So
there's so much private property that's owned, like it's not public land.
Uh-huh.
Someone owns that land, most likely, and you're just taking a big risk for your own safety, man. Honestly, I mean, as sad as that is, it's awful that a kid got killed, but you're kind of, I don't know, you're rolling those dice.
Yeah. I mean, that's the risk you take.
Yeah, and it's not like there wasn't enough chameleons on the one side to just grab a couple of them. It was some kid who was selling invasives to the wholesalers, and he was getting greedy and said, it's 3 a.m, no one's going to be awake, I'm just going to hop the fence, and he paid the price. But I have friends that are photographers, and I had one friend who wanted to go in the orange groves. He knew about a back gate that nobody was ever there. It was like a service road. So he's like, I'll drive down the service road. I'll walk, 100 yards in, take a couple pictures at, 2 p.m, the sun's out, and then I'll get back in my car and leave. Like, it's not that big a deal. And he's standing there with his camera, his DSLR, and all of a sudden, he said like 6 or 7 dudes on ATVs with AR-15s roll up on him. And they're like, who do you work for? Why are you here? And basically it was like Minute Maid fucking with Tropicana.
I was going to say Tropicana doesn't play around.
Yeah. And that's a legit thing, because for those of you who don't know, like we have like the canker down here, the citrus canker. So like there was a thing where competitors were like afraid that saboteurs were going to poison or disease their plants. So he was like, hey, I'm a college kid taking photos of the grove, I'm sorry. They're like, listen, if you want to do that, that's fine, but you have to go to the main office, you have to file, they have to do a background check on you. And then like he went about it the right way. But again, imagine going out and just taking pictures of flowers on a tree, orange blossoms, and like 6 dudes on ATVs, good old boys with rifles, and you're like, whoa. So
he's probably lucky he had that camera. He's honestly, the camera probably de-escalated the situation a little bit.
Yeah.
You know,
you also never really know what people are doing on their properties. So
yeah, right. Right.
Yeah, you gotta be cautious.
Yes. So
I want people around.
Of course. So Matt asks, are tegus a real problem? I will say that from my personal experience, I've never found a tegu in the wild. But one of my very good friends, Rachel, she's a professor of biology and herpetology in Phoenix. She was doing some grad work with Florida tegus in terms of identifying different genomes and DNA mapping and stuff like that. And she partnered up with some people from FIU, and they had U.S. Geological Service was running the show with like frozen lizards. It was a whole big thing. But she was working with a local guy in the Homestead area where the tegus are, and she was trapping a lot of them, and they were getting them. And these are adult, big tegus. But again, it's still an isolated pocket. You're not going to go to Fort Lauderdale Beach and just see black and white lizards walking on the sand. Like, it doesn't work like that. That's not how it is. It's like that commercial for it was like put pictures on the wall. It's not how this is. That's not how any of this works. And and she showed me, like, there are tegus legit, and their whole thing is that it's not that the tegus are merciless killers. Let's face it, feral house cats do way worse than any tegu ever will.
Any species ever,
right,
short of us.
Right, and there's billions, maybe not billions, but there's tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of feral house cats in South Florida. But the tegus, because they're not cute and cuddly, they get the rap. Again, they're not supposed to be here. I don't know what else to say about that. However, their thought process was they're going to eat crocodile eggs. They're going to eat shorebird eggs. They're going to eat indigo snake eggs, which it's all
they're
speculation.
They're going to eat anything they can fit in their mouth.
Exactly. It's all speculation, So is it an issue? Yeah. Is it as bad as they make it up to be? No. The Burmese pythons have never truly been an issue until recently. And the question is it because they are finally migrating and moving, or is it because more people are going out looking for them? You know what I mean?
They're getting more attention. They're being thrown up more than they were in the past.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So I take pride in the fact that I've never seen a python in the wild. And I go out in the glades at least once a week.
You've also never seen a coral snake.
I've never found a coral snake on my own. You're right. It's true.
You live in Florida. How do you not find a coral snake, dude?
Because they're fossorial.
Do you guys even get them that far down?
Yeah, my county is the lowest it goes on this area, and then it jumps back up about 45 minutes south of me.
Nerd.
So, nerd. But yeah, I try and do as much field herping as I can, man. I'm 30 to 40 minutes away from the glades, depending on what part of the glades I go to. So I'm spoiled.
How's that habitat doing?
The Everglades itself?
Yeah.
So when you talk about Everglades, like a lot of South Florida people, we say glades, and we're not talking about the Everglades. So traditional Everglades is going to be Kissimmee River Delta all the way south to the Straits of Florida. And that's millions and millions of acres. The majority of that northern portion, if you break the Everglades down into sections of thirds, right? So that Kissimmee River Delta down into what we would now call the northern Everglades, or even like the STAs and stuff, is majority farmland and Indian reservation. And then below that is all of your stormwater treatment area, and that feeds into Florida Bay and Everglades National Park and Big Cypress National Preserve. So we say Everglades, but very rarely do I go into Everglades National Park. You know what I mean? It is technically Everglades, but it's not called Everglades. It's STA1, STA4, Big Cypress, stuff like that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. I was part of an alligator hunt a few years ago, and we made a mistake. We were in the wrong area, and Fish and Wildlife didn't. We actually got a 10-foot one alligator, and it was an awesome experience. I loved every minute of it. I am a hunter. I know it's kind of weird that I would kill a port defense little reptile and eat it, but I did. But we told them, hey, we got this 10-foot gator, and we took it to one of the processing facilities, and Fish and Wildlife's there, and we talked to them, and they're like, where'd you get this gator? And we told them honestly, and they're like, hey, man, your license isn't for that area. It's for, 5 miles that way. And we're like, oh, crap. Like, are we in trouble? And they're like, no, because this is the biggest alligator we've ever seen in this area in the past 10 years. So we want to, with your permission.
Thanks for killing it.
Well, no. It was great because they wanted to take samples of blood and organs and muscle tissue and scalation for science. And one of the biggest problems is this area has massive agricultural runoff from sugarcane plantation, and the mercury levels.
Big Sugar.
Oh, I love Big Sugar though, man. I love them. Domino, baby. I love them. I love cruising them cane fields and finding pygmies. Ooh, doggies. So they told us later on, they're like, man, thank you for getting that gator, because the mercury levels in that area from the agricultural runoff were so high that almost anything that you caught there was inedible. But this alligator had barely any traces of mercury, and they checked his stomach.
So you guys got it tested, or they tested it?
They tested it. And they're like, listen, feel free to eat that meat. That meat is good because we froze it because we didn't know. You know what I mean? They're like, listen, you can feel free to eat that meat. That meat's tip top. It has very little muscle mercury. And then they checked the stomach contents, which was like some fish and stuff. And those fish, they also did not have high trace of mercury. So, and now when you drive across Alligator Alley, which is the main highway that cuts across the state of Florida in the south, you'll see more people fishing that area now than ever before because that data was produced. I don't want to say it's just from our alligator. I'm sure there were other reasons as well, but it's cool to see more people being outdoors and fishing and trapping and hunting more in that area because things have been better regulated in terms of agricultural runoff and pollution and that kind of thing.
Thomas asks, do you see a population difference between populations of, say, Nerodia in proper National Forest Everglades and the farmland/Indian reservations?
Yes and no. So I would say the preserves that are non-hunting areas, the population's exactly the same. The populations in wildlife management areas and stormwater treatment areas, in my personal observation, the Nerodia, the snakes overall, which you would find crayfish snakes, salt marsh, mud snakes, Nerodia, garter snakes, cottonmouths, rough greens, all these Everglades watery snakes has been down in the wildlife management areas, and it's not because of over collecting or pollution. It's simply because of more human traffic. South Florida is constantly expanding. The population grows and grows and grows. I think right now my county has, 3.2 million people in just my county. And they want to go out and they want to see the stars. They want to go out and watch a sunset. You know, they want to take their kid fishing out in quote unquote the middle of nowhere. So more road traffic, more human encroachment, even on a minute level, will affect it to some degree or another.
And then there's the meth heads. Good old Florida meth head.
I've seen some crazy
natural
shit.
Habitat.
I've seen some crazy shit in them glades, boy.
Like some Joe Exotic shit.
Yeah. Make Joe Exotic look like an appetizer.
I need to watch that series again, man. It's just, I feel like there's so much I missed just because I was in shock of what they'd, like, the prior events of the episode before that.
Man, I'll tell you what, and like as much as the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission is a thorn in my side to some degree, it's an amazing organization because the majority of the individuals, the biologists, the field officers, the law enforcement aspect and the biology aspect, they do a great job of actually giving a shit about wildlife. And whether they're forced to or not, it's cool because every time I go hunting, like actual hunting, the check station people, they're biologists. They're people that love animals as much as we do. So the fact that I'm going out and collecting game or harvesting game, they're getting all the data from it, which is going to make the laws better, which is going to make the harvest better, which is going to make the populations better. So it's always good to see that. And most of the biologists, they're pretty young. They're young kids in college. They're volunteering or minimum wage type thing just so they can get their feet wet. And it's cool to see the enthusiasm. It's cool to see people loving the wilderness because we don't have much left in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, you think about a lot of the studies and stuff they're doing, it's pretty much out of necessity because it's just constantly evolving and changing with, what's present and what's coming and going and
yeah,
in terms of populations.
Yeah.
They don't really have much of a choice but to stay on top of it.
Yeah. I actually saw someone posted recently, I guess either yesterday or the day before, somebody found while they were snorkeling, they found a manatee with the name Trump.
Oh, yeah, I saw that earlier on Facebook.
Yeah, it's been all over social media all day today.
So here's my thing, if I may. I don't know what happened. I don't know how they did it, but from what I gathered or what it was presented to me was they didn't hurt the animal. They basically rubbed away the algae.
That's what I was thinking was like,
that's
surely there's sediment or something.
Yeah, it had a slime coat, much like a fish, of algae and whatever and silt, and they scraped away the algae, and what you're seeing is the gray skin of the manatee. And all I could think of was they really didn't hurt him per se, but at the same time, why not do the whole body? Like, help that animal out. If you're going to go through that, if you're going to sit there and meticulously rub algae off, do the whole critter, but you can't because
how many White Claws you had to have to.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
That.
Problem is you have to actually give a fuck about the animal to do that kind of stuff.
That is true. And then at the same time,
that person didn't give a fuck about that animal.
You're right. And at the same time, it's also, you would still get in trouble for doing that. Manatees love hose water. For those of you who don't know, it's cool. It's crisp. It's not, diluted in any way. And sometimes they're encountered in a lot of brackish water. So a lot of people, they'll leave the hose running off their dock to entice manatees to come and drink the hose water. That's illegal.
Yeah, you're not supposed to mess with them like at all, right?
You're not supposed to go, I think, with like 6 feet of them. Or whatever.
Yeah, you're not supposed to like touch them. You're not supposed to. Just
so
try have anything but looking at them.
Yeah,
I saw a video. It was like some probably like teenagers. They're swimming off the back end of a boat, and a manatee just kind of like boop, popped up next to them, and they were spazzing, like terrified. They thought that they were gonna die, dude. Like it was the most the look on their face was there was a shark next to them. They were fearing for their lives. It was probably one of the most funny videos I've ever seen.
Yeah,
I mean, at first glance, I'd probably do a double take too. If I saw something big and gray swimming next to me, I'd probably have a second of like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think anybody would, but like it was like 20 foot to the boat, and the whole swim was panic attack, straight up panic attack. I'm gonna die.
Mm-hmm.
It was hilarious.
Meanwhile, you
and it's like this 16-year-old girl that's like, oh fuck,
and the whole time she's holding the GoPro on her face to show her expression. Like, that's the problem with the youth of America, is that if you're going to
dedication,
that's fear.
If you're going to panic, make sure it's being recorded. Oh man, but yeah, Florida's wild, man. I love it. I'll never leave. I love it.
It's always been a place I wanted to visit to do like a herping trip or something like that, or go to one of the big expos like the Daytona Expo.
Yeah,
although
Daytona's
I hear that's
awesome, man. Daytona's the blast.
Daytona's the best. I love Daytona.
Yeah.
Oh, the town's a total crap hole, but
yeah,
the expo's awesome.
Myrtle Beach's ugly twin.
Yes. But again, you're not. We stay at the resort, and you're going there to hang out with snake people. You're not going there to go to clubs necessarily. You know what I mean?
And the hotel is nice. Like hotels, it's you don't have to go very far. Everything's literally within walking distance.
Yeah.
Convenient.
What did Billy say?
Billy said manatees are a lot bigger than you think, and they sneak up on you like ninjas.
They are. They definitely sneak up on you. What I'm trying to figure out is, what the hell were the pirates back in the 16 and 1700s? What were they drinking and or smoking that they thought that those were mermaids?
I don't know.
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
They've been out to sea for a real long time.
Real long time. So I've had.
It gets lonely on the boats.
So my.
It does. It does get lonely on the boats.
My employer, one of his best friends, is an elderly gentleman who is a straight up old school Florida cracker, and his family comes from Big Sugar, and he was around for the South Bay floods. I think he was like 4 or 5 at the time when 70,000 people died from a hurricane flood, and he's seen the development of the Everglades and the development of Big Sugar, and his family owned a lot of sugar and stuff. But he told me that back in the day, they used to eat manatee because it is absolutely breathtakingly delicious. And he said
it doesn't look like it would be.
No, but they said
it looks like a lot of fat.
Yeah, so everyone says that they call them sea cows because they're big and stocky and they eat seagrass.
Best
but they
prime
really
rib of the ocean.
It's prime rib of the ocean. That's why they call them sea cows.
It's the what do you call it? The veal. The veal,
Yeah.
real soft, lots of fat.
Veal Del Mar.
Yeah. Marbled manatee.
That's kind of, I don't know. I'd feel bad, man. They're too
I'd feel
stupid
real
looking
bad.
and cute.
Man, and that goes back to the whole cute and cuddly nonsense. Like, you want to protect it because it's cute and cuddly. Meanwhile, it's a problem, and it goes untouched. Billy Hunt says Ocean Wagyu.
Jesus.
Ocean Wagyu.
Oh, man. Sick lot.
Billy Hunt, ladies and gentlemen.
Ocean Wagyu.
So you have any plans?
Marble to perfection.
Do you have any plans of getting into other stuff, like as far as breeding outside of Amazons?
Yeah. I'd like to do some of the boas that I've been raising up. The Hog Islands, the Costa Ricans. But I'd like to give it another go. So the same year that my pair of Costa Rican Ruschenbergeri died, the exact same thing happened to my Northern Emerald female. And again, I just had a single pair of that, and she even popped out a fully birthed stillborn, and then nothing else after that. And I waited like a couple days, took her to a vet, got an ultrasound. She had some stuff in her, and they gave her some hormones and antibiotics and stuff like that, and nothing ever came out of her, and she eventually died. And so I got rid of my male. But yeah, I would like to get some of the other Corrales again. Not a whole lot, but a pair, maybe 2 pairs, something like that. The Northerns, the annulated. Just like Austin, I was thinking about basins maybe, especially with like the prices of Northerns right now. Like they're pretty up there. I might as well just go there for go all out for a basin.
You used to have
so
chondros?
when you
I used to have quite a few chondros, but no, I do not have any chondros. Not anymore.
Why not? They're awesome.
I really enjoy them as well. I just don't really know like the direction that I'd want to go in with that. Probably some locality stuff.
Mm-hmm.
When I first got into it, I kind of got heavy into the designer thing. And I put quite a bit of money into it. I produced a clutch. I tried to send some of my females out on breeding loan, and that went horrible. And I kind of sold the rest of what I had and stuck with the Amazons.
Dayton, how do you cycle? Do you mind breaking that down a little bit with the Hortolanas?
Yeah, I don't really cycle them.
Okay.
I have sort of like I have a natural daily cycle, and it sort of naturally gets a little colder because of our seasons.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I go about like I heat my room mid-80s, and then I drop it down about 10 degrees at night every night all year long to mid-70s.
Yeah, I would draw. My room fluctuates quite a bit. It's similar to that. And my stuff that needs to get colder, I move out of the room in the wintertime. So no food cycling or anything like that? You don't?
I do. Well, I sort of accidentally food cycle. It's
okay.
I don't know if I would say that I food cycle per se, but when I am preparing to pair animals up in advance, I do make sure that the female has some extra food in her.
Okay.
So it does kind of work its way out maybe as a food cycle, but no, I don't.
And so, like, what time of year are you doing your introductions and stuff like that?
Also, mostly year round.
Okay. All right.
Just whenever I have an animal that I think is, of adult age and size, I might throw a male in with a female and see how it goes. If not, if nothing happens, no interest is shown, I'll take it out and wait. I do sort of have like down seasons naturally, which sort of like right now, basically for the past few months, even though I'm kind of throwing a male here in with a female, I'm not really getting any interest. But yeah, sort of like spring is a time that's always on, kind of spring, early summer,
Okay.
and then like later summer and fall.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm just kind of curious. I'm trying to see like what because I'm a spring breeder guy. I do a lot of spring breeding with the like Bredli and I'm trying some inlands and Brisbanes and stuff. But so it's a completely different scope of what I'm used to. So I'm just kind of trying to get a idea of how you do it.
You could just do it in the springtime if you like. You don't have to try to pair up at any one point in time. Weather does seem to play a factor. Like when I'm getting some storms and it's rainy out, like that does stimulate my animal. So, if you have a season that is like that, that might be a good time to throw some animals together.
Fall, spring, we get a lot of rainfall in spring.
Yeah,
I know
winter's pretty dry, and so summertime.
A lot of the guys in Florida, if it starts thunderstorming, that's when they're throwing stuff together because that's like the magic window. Yeah,
if you got rainy weather, it would be a good time. And if that's multiple seasons, I wouldn't like. I've had pairs. I've had success. It doesn't really matter what time of year, as long as the conditions are right and the animals pair up. It works.
Right on.
So I know like if you pair garden phases with colored animals, you'll kind of get a mix. If you pair colored animals with colored animals, you'll kind of get a mix. Like, do you notice when you're pairing like the leopards and the tigers, do you still get that sort of spectrum of like garden phases with colored stuff and then the visuals?
That's a lot more worked out. So with the tigers, it's a dominant gene. Roughly half the animals of the litter, no matter what you're gonna get a tiger. 50 half tigers, and that's one of the more. You can have a tiger of any phase, any color,
right?
Range. So there doesn't seem to be a limit on that. So you'll get a good mix. And with the leopard, it's recessive. There's some debate on whether it's incomplete dominant and the hets are visual. I don't think that's the case. I think it's recessive. But then again, just by knowing that it's recessive, you can then kind of predict the outcome by what pairing you do, So,
yeah, because I know everyone's like, as far as like polymorphic, a lot of people think cresteds are polymorphic. I don't really think they are, because if you like when I was breeding them, I would notice you only get 2 eggs per clutch, but it's every so often. I would notice that if they had laid all those eggs at once, you would definitely see ones that follow like a traditional genetic ratios. But with those, it does sort of seem like, there is truly like the polymorphism is much more legitimate. But I just wasn't sure as far as the morphs and stuff, if you still got that sort of spread of like gardens and coloreds and visuals and
it sort of depends. So you'll get the spread with the tiger because it'll go colored. You can have colored phases. It mixes with the other morphs. You can get garden phases. You get it all because it is truly dominant gene. But some of the other ones, it's sort of linked to a certain thing, like the leopard. There aren't any colored leopards. They're all some.
Oh, that's
garden
true. I've never
phase.
seen any. Yeah.
There is a bit of variation between them, but there hasn't been a colored leopard. There have been some weird ones out there, maybe like a chimera paradox thing.
I remember, who's the one guy that had the? I don't know if he does anything with them anymore, but he had some paradoxes that were just unreal. Looked like digital camo.
Yeah. I mean, probably Danny Mendez in the early days. Trying to think of who
Trying to see if I
recently
could find a picture. This has been a couple years, but the guy had just the most unbelievable paradoxes I've ever seen.
Yeah, so there's some evidence that might be genetic in Amazon tree boas, but I also think that there are those chimera versions as well, like the one-offs. I think the one-offs that happen randomly in random litters are sort of chimeras, and there are some lines of the paradox animals that have like half the litter being paradox animals, and that seems and that's not just a one-off thing, and that seems a bit much for those to all be chimeras.
Yeah, I got him right here. It's paradox predators.
Oh, okay. I don't know his name, but I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, let me see. I got him
He
pulled up right
got
here. These things are
a group of those from Bushmaster. Yeah. Yep.
Whoa.
Yeah. I mean,
that's sick.
Like sometimes you think of paradoxes and you're like, okay, there's like two blotches of one color, but this is like just crazy.
Seems like the weird stuff with Amazons is always very extreme.
He had one that was like digital camo. Like I said, this is it. I think there was another picture of it that showed it a little better, but
that's an incredible animal.
That's nuts, right?
Incredible. Yeah. That looks like a Kofi out and a Tannenbar, Dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah,
like I said, I don't know if he's still around.
Those ones come from like one litter, and it was quite a few animals in the litter. They were imported by Bushmaster, and he got them. And so, like that to me sort of points that there is something genetic going on there, and not just the fusing of two animals.
Just ridiculous.
Oh, there's a litter picture.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's from 2016, but I don't know. I just remember when he was posting these pictures, like everyone was like losing their minds over him.
Rightfully so. Yeah, that's wicked.
I just don't know what happened to him.
Yeah.
So that's just it's one of the things with Amazons that's always been really interesting to me, is just the sort of the not knowing what you're going to get kind of factor.
Yeah.
Not in the sense of like. Go ahead.
I was just saying that's what drew me to it, is like the what are you gonna get kind of factor to him,
Yeah, I was definitely into that. More so along the lines of like wanting to figure out how that works, and how those different genes work, or working with a new gene or something like that people don't have. Because I think for the most part that they probably are inherited in a similar fashion to any other species. It's just how variable they are can mask those things. And I'm sure it masks a lot of genes, mutations. It makes it harder to sort of pick out what's what.
Matt wants to know, what is that picture over your left shoulder?
This one?
I think so, yeah.
That is a picture one of my wife's friends painted, and it's Commander Buddha.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Are you? What's as far as the leucistics go? Those haven't been around terribly long, right?
I mean, like for Amazon mutations, no.
Right,
but
right. For Amazon, in
really,
terms of
like,
Amazons,
they've been around, almost a decade, maybe. Yeah, that's a project I'm working at. But like, I'm not the founder of the project or anything, and I sort of, got into it, and I've really taken the long way. I got in with a single animal, produced offspring, and then paired those up, to my original animal, to produce my first leucistic. That animal wasn't particularly healthy. So I'm still at it, trying to make more of them. Yeah. Those, cool. I mean, a lot of people I've heard, say like, oh, I like Amazons because of the colors, the color variety, and like the white snake really doesn't do it for me because it doesn't have any color. But like it's pretty impressive, especially when you see one in person, like a white, basically translucent snake. It's really impressive.
Yeah, I imagine just like combining that with other stuff down the line too,
Yeah, again, I mentioned earlier, they seem to have quite a bit of variety, even with like the leucistic, on like the amount of pattern that they can have and stuff like that. So that leads me to believe that you could work this into some of the other gene mutations, and it would be visible. You'd be able to see it, not just under like a black light or something.
What were you saying, Phil?
Oh no, I was going to say is when it comes to mind, it's like a leucistant transpecos, but just stretched out. Like that's what I'm envisioning in my mind.
Like silly putty.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool because you can like, well, at least as a neonate, you can like see through the skin, so it's kind of like pinkish and purple. You can see all like the tissue and blood vessels and stuff.
Very
It would
cool.
be even more interesting to see what that does with that leopard gene, because I mean you're thinking about that's already kind of a monochromatic. It sort of fits color scheme wise. It'd be interesting to see what that does with it.
Yeah, I definitely would like to do that. Got some raised up animals, so that's in the works. We'll see if that comes to fruition.
I miss them every now and then, man. I see pictures of some Amazons, and but they're just like Antaresia. I'm just at that point where I'm like, I've had my fill.
So do you notice, like, you said they like fire up and fire down? What I've seen specifically with my male tiger, he's an orange phase tiger, and during the day he's like a really rich pumpkin orange, and then at nighttime he goes like, I don't even know, like a pastel orange. It kind of lightens up, kind of quite a bit actually, like a pastel orange kind of color.
Mm-hmm.
You notice that as well?
Sorry, I got a little distracted by my toddler. What was the last part?
Just with them firing up and firing down. Do you notice them getting lighter in the evening versus like during the day? They're kind of a darker, more rich version of them, the color that they naturally are.
I would say that's more so what I noticed with the leopards, not necessarily what I've noticed with some of the other color phases. I have noticed big color changes in like gravid females, and that almost always happens. Once the female's gravid, they become super dark. Sometimes they stay that way. Sometimes they get their color back. But I wouldn't say I've noticed that with any of the other color phases, really, per se.
Okay.
But yeah, they can go through really drastic color changes as they mature.
One thing I was going to ask is, because I've never really produced many boas, and the stuff that I have experience with was mostly other people's stuff or places I worked at. Have you noticed a behavioral difference postpartum with the female in terms of her knowing that the babies are gone and like you have to like sanitize the cage to get rid of smells and stuff? Or is it just kind of like she just keeps doing her thing?
I would say there's less maternal, instincts that you have to worry about, because at that point she's done taking care of them. Whereas like with a
Right.
python, now their work begins and they have to incubate the eggs and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they're doing that, they're not going to be hunting or anything else really. So I don't think that that's the case with the boas really.
They're just gooey.
Well, no, because I've had scenarios where we had boas, hog islands, and some BCI stuff where we left, like we cleaned the cage, but we really didn't clean the cage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they would not feed, they would not drink, they would hide in the corner, and then we completely sanitized the enclosure, or even moved them to a completely different enclosure, and it's status quo back to normal. And I didn't know if that had something to do with the fact that they still smell baby juice or what.
That sounds like it would be the case. But I can tell you that I don't like, I wipe down the cage and everything, but I don't like super sanitize it.
Yeah.
And I haven't really had any issues. Usually my females are pretty depleted and ready to get right back on the horse.
Yeah. Ready to resupply.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially, I mean, like, I don't really try to feed my animals all the way through. I've done it before, and I have had females that will continue to eat up until like giving birth. That's more rare than common. But once I get like a female who's gravid that refuses a meal, I usually just cut it off at that and don't really bother them too much. Okay. And that's usually about like halfway through the process.
Okay, cool.
Are you reducing the size of the prey items when you're offering? Or are you just doing the same like status quo prey size?
I would think that would be a thing. Like, I have reduced prey size if I continue to feed the animal all the way through, but I've basically cut that out of my routine now, so I don't really worry about it too much. Yeah.
So I remember, I think it was Bill Hughes. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, like, their bodies are like, I wouldn't think that feeding it a large meal would really hurt the animal, or the offspring or anything like that, because their bodies are sort of meant to protect them. But it might like divert energy, like they would then have to put energy into digesting
versus gestation. Yeah.
I remember, I think it was Bill Hughes or someone else. They were talking about with breeding emeralds in particular, issues with like just the amount of, I guess, like goo or afterbirth or whatever you want to call it. Like babies, he would put like a grate or something sort of mid-level so that when babies came out, they would hit that, and that gravity would just make sure the rest of that goo sort of came off of them. Do you do anything like that with the Amazons? Do you just don't see that to be much of a problem?
I do think it is a good idea in his situation, because I think he did that because he travels a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually catch a lot of my litters being born. I don't know. I'm not like crazy, so like I can't be like the only one that goes into my snake room at night, but I do frequently. I do frequently catch it happening, and I'm like really good at knowing. I can see the animal's behavior and be like, yeah, it's gonna happen tonight, or like get it really close, like in the next day or two or whatever, So I do enjoy catching it and seeing it happen and watching it happen. But if you're not there, sometimes the animals can have, and I actually had this happen this year as well. some of the offspring will have a hard time breaking out of their sacs, their amniotic sacs. And so if you're not going to be there at all, that grate would break. If that breaks open the sac, that'll help the animal, get out and not suffocate in there. Because oftentimes, even like what appears to be a fully developed, healthy animal just won't break out of the sac, and it'll just suffocate in the amniotic sac.
Oh.
And I had that happen with a couple animals in one of my litters this year. So I do like that idea, but on the other side, that grate gives something that like those animals could get stuck in or tangled up in or under. So that could pose an issue. He didn't have that issue, but
it was.
I would be concerned about it.
Either the grate or he added like a layer of fake plants, just something that when they hit that, it would like break that sac.
I would think the fake plant thing might be a good idea, because then like they're not really going to get stuck in that in any way, and they would still break up the sac.
Have you ever witnessed like a female eating a slug or a stillborn or anything with hortolonus at all?
You took my question, Austin.
Sorry. Great minds think alike, man.
Great minds think alike.
Yeah, that's not uncommon. I've seen them do it with slugs. I haven't seen them do it with stillborns.
It's so bizarre. I've
Yeah.
seen rainbow.
But it makes sense. It makes sense that the reason they do it. It is bizarre though.
Waste not, want not.
I think especially
the rule I live by.
Especially if they go off food, they're just ready to get whatever nutrients they can get back in them just right away.
It's the same way that the jackal runs off with the wildebeest placenta. It's because it's good shit.
Delicacy.
The reason that the alpha wolf gets the liver of the kill.
There you go.
I couldn't get
cool
used
to
to
see
live bearing stuff.
Dude, live bearing stuff is the best.
I couldn't get used to live bearing stuff. I'm just so used to eggs and waiting.
I'm really excited about the change up, man. This next season, I'm going to be pairing my Dumerals. None of my hortolonus will be of age at all. But this next season, I'll be pairing my Dumerals. And I'm excited for the change up, just trying something different. I've never messed with any live bearer stuff, So
the incubating eggs was like a big turnoff for me. Like I didn't want to deal with that.
You just go maternal like I do.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I've incubated too, but I like a maternal a lot.
I know Nick, he's got like a walk-in room incubator now, but like, I know he gets a lot of data for maternal incubation on stuff like that. So, yeah. I just kind of thought that like, that wasn't a good way to go, but I mean, that makes sense that it would be,
I only lost one when I did it the last time, and I don't know that it was meant to live in the first place, to be honest with you. I didn't have any kind of crazy issues or anything like that.
This was a while ago. I wasn't like, but yeah, my viewpoint has changed on maternal incubation. I'm sure although I'm sure you do have females that like reject.
I haven't yet, but if I did, I would definitely incubate those eggs. Yeah, I wouldn't just leave them in there for sure. Yeah, I'm definitely got an incubator ready to go in case the mom doesn't do her job.
Right.
Dayton, have you ever left babies in with mom or no?
No.
No? Okay.
Nothing more than like overnight when I didn't catch it happening.
Okay. That's something I've been curious about with certain species because like it's a recent finding that cottonmouths will be motherly for at least a couple weeks until, babies are like good to go and like get off on their own. It's not the same as a mammal per se in terms of the motherliness, but if there's a den or a crevice in a creek bed or in a canal wall or something, they'll bury up in there with their babies and then wait until the babies start to go off on their own, and then mom just leaves. And I've always been wondering if something like Amazons or anything that's really live bearing, if you left one or two babies in there to observe what would happen if maybe the babies would do better, or mom would do better, or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, like, that would be an interesting experiment. I haven't really thought about doing it. I don't have a lot of issues with the babies or with mom, so like it would just be out of curiosity why I would do that. But yeah, I mean, like, that's the first time the idea has really occurred to me. I mean, like, maybe I can see an advantage in the wild with like a cottonmouth because the mom can sort of like protect them a little bit, I guess.
Yeah.
Or provide a bigger layer of protection. But also, like, I guess it's probably easier to keep them in like a den if they're like in a tunnel or hibernating or it's like in the middle of winter or something like that when they give birth. But with like a tree boa, I'm imagining in the wild, because it happens in my cages, the babies fall, and then as soon as they fall, they usually shoot right up, and they're out and all over the place.
Good point.
And so, like, maybe in the wild they would get dispersed pretty far apart. If they're dropping out of trees
quickly.
And quickly too. But they definitely are. The babies don't just like chill; they're cruising for the whole time that they're in the cage with mom.
Okay.
Scatter.
Yeah.
Do you like when you offer food to your neonates? How soon after the female gives birth to the litter are you doing that?
I will try within a few days if everything looks good.
Okay.
I don't even wait. I don't wait for him to have a shed. Sometimes you'll get an animal that like doesn't have a fully absorbed yolk, or you can tell that it like it's just absorbed it and it's got a little bit of a belly,
Mm-hmm.
And so I won't like try to feed that animal right away. I'll let that settle down. And if they go into a shed cycle before I attempt to feed them, I just leave them alone and let them shed out before I try to feed them. But if they're healthy and alert and looking good and fully digested, sometimes they leave little urates in their tubs. I don't have any problem giving them a shot within a few days.
Okay.
And
what's your go-to prey item?
Fuzzy
for the babies, fuzzies.
Fuzzy mice, yeah.
Cool.
I go with the bigger prey item, and I find that the hair on the animal sort of can kind of trigger a feeding, like a strike response. It gives them a little tickle or something.
Sure.
So,
for how like thin and dainty they are, they can handle a lot larger meal than you think that they could. It's kind of crazy with
so
them.
damn thin.
Their necks are tiny, thin, but man, they can really handle it. Like, I don't push it too crazy, but I've given meals where I'm like, oh, they may just not eat this, and you go in there 30 minutes later, and it's in their gut, and it's a pretty sizable meal, man.
Yeah, they're pretty stretchy.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
It's kind of the opposite of what you think with like emeralds and stuff. You got to be all safe and giving them these little tiny meals and all this stuff. It's not the same at all. I would say it's more like a carpet where you can kind of give them something a little larger than you think they can handle.
Yeah. I don't think they're like a super sensitive species to work with. I think they're pretty hardy. They do have above average like requirements. My other boas, I just give them fresh water basically, and they're good to go. But like Amazons do require some humidity, and
you got to mist them and all that stuff. That's the big difference. But I don't know, with the ones that I've got, it kind of changed up my routine in the room to where I kind of dig it, because a lot of the stuff I keep is pretty bulletproof, and you don't have to be so attentive, I guess. And just that little extra check, that I have to make every day with the humidity, and give them a little mist every other day or every second day, I don't know. It just makes me a little bit more engaged in my collection. I enjoy them quite a bit for how nippy and stuff they are. They're probably something that I look forward to opening drawers in the most in my room, other than Apodora.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I really enjoy the variety, and they're super cool to go into the snake room in the middle of the night and flick the light on and see them all active and out and take a look around.
And is that what you do for humidity? Is it just like mist them regularly, or do you do anything different?
Yeah, mist them regularly. Dump out a water bowl, in the floor, stuff like that. I recently, so I've used all kinds of substrate and everything like that. I did give the potty pads a go.
Yep.
And I liked the look and everything like that, and I liked a lot of aspects about them, but I'm pretty sure now that potty pads actually pull moisture out of the air, and I don't think they release it again, because it's sort of like a diaper where
it's meant to hold on to it.
Yeah, it's meant to hold on to it, and once the moisture gets into the pad, it turns into some kind of gel shit, and so it doesn't then evaporate from there. So I've kind of cut those. I've kind of cut those out now.
See, I use those religiously, and I never have once thought about that.
Yeah,
I know a lot of chondro guys that use them.
That actually kind of explains a lot.
I was starting to have some shedding issues, especially in the winter time. I heat my room, so that can kind of draw moisture out of the air, but really nothing I was doing was fixing it. And I was dumping water bowls on the substrate, and I'm like, why the fuck is this happening? And then it just I was like, oh, this is why. And it was just I don't know. I had it just all connected at one time, and I was like, these things aren't fucking letting moisture out,
So what are you using as your substrate? I use paper towels for my juvenile stuff, and then I've got that bioactive set up with live plants, so the humidity is always pretty good in there. But
Python portal?
Yeah, the Python portal I've got like that. I like it. I need to replant it. I think I messed up putting the I've got a couple plants that are underneath the heat panel, and they don't do real well. So I've got to kind of rethink how what kind of plants I put in there, I guess. But I really liked how that turned out, and the humidity stays well, or pretty nice. I use paper towels with the juveniles, and I just kind of I'll miss one day, and then the tub will be fogged up for 2 days, and then once it's not fogged up again, I missed it again. That's kind of my routine. What do you do?
Yeah, I like paper towels. I'm giving Cypress a go. I've done it before.
I love Cypress,
but I'm using Cypress with the adults. It seems to be, I'm getting my sheds back dialed. It seems to be working. It holds moisture well. It also adds a smell to the room, sort of like a earthy smell.
Yeah. I use Cypress with all my Brettles and Apodora and Coastals and stuff like that. I haven't used it with the Juvies just because they're in 16-quart tubs, and it's just so easy to grab the paper towels, toss them, and put new ones in there. But I imagine whenever they get a little older and they're in legit cages, then I'll probably swap that out. So.
Yeah, I think I would like to add some Cypress in with that scrub. I think I worry about that driftwood. I'd have to dry that Cypress out pretty good. I just worry about that driftwood getting soggy and gross. And
I bake all my Cypress, man. I get it at Lowe's and I bake it 425 degrees, and then I put it in the cage, let it cool down, just because I don't want any funk, But it typically dries it out quite a bit, and you don't have to worry because you get those soggy bags of mulch, and it's just sopping wet, And with those, baking doesn't even help. So what I'll do is I'll rip the bag open, kind of set it in the sun, and let it naturally evaporate a little bit before I bake it, just because Cypress gets so hyper saturated that there's a point where it's 425 degrees or whatever in the oven. It doesn't matter. It's still, you put it in the cage and it's raining in the cage as it's cooling down and stuff. So
I'll be right back, guys.
Sure.
But yeah, man,
I
I
use the
really
hell
like
out of
cypress
puppy
mulch.
pads. I love puppy pads.
I swear
feel
by
like-
cypress.
For that bigger setup, I just feel like cypress would be easier because currently, like I can spot clean that, and I don't have to pull out all the driftwood and all the stuff.
That's a big
Pissed
reason
off
why I use it
scrub.
with the pop ones, because it's so easy to spot clean, you know. And I don't deal. They don't have. I haven't had a bad shed with them yet using the cypress. Granted, I go in there and I'll mist it down pretty heavy once every 3 or 4 days. They don't have the humidity requirements that like Portolanas do, but I like it a lot. You know, it makes a mess. It pisses me off quite a bit as far as the mess, because I'm kind of a neat freak, and I have carpet, like outdoor carpet, in my snake room. It's one of my biggest fails in building this snake room. I wish I would have never done it, you know. But I have to vacuum, and it is a pain in the ass to vacuum up off of carpet. And
Yes,
I just
sir.
have to bust the shop vac out and grin and bear it about every 2 weeks. You can sweep the big chunks out, but it's I've got plans drawn up already for my next snake room. It's going to be a building, but with like angled floors and drainage, I can hose off the floor and all kinds of shit. It's going to be badass.
You ain't fucking around anymore.
No. I'm going to have like the spring, like the spring power outlets that drape from the ceiling instead of all along the walls and shit. Jason Brumley's the one that told me about that when he built his. He's like, it's the best thing he ever did whenever he built a snake room.
You're talking about the retractable ones that are on the spool?
No, it's like a little pigtail. So it's got a little like spring to it. So it's like a spiral that just comes down out of the ceiling.
Yeah, it's a coiled pigtail.
Yeah, like a coiled pigtail. Yeah. And he's just like, you plug in, good to go. There's nothing on the ground. You're not tripping over wires or anything. Plus, if I'm going to have the snake room where it's like you hose down the floor with the drain in the floor, don't have to worry about any kind of electrical shortages or anything like that. So,
yeah, it's good, man. It's good.
Dude, speaking of, I was cleaning mice earlier this morning, right? And it's been getting pretty cold, so as I was finishing up, I put one of the heat lamps on my grow-out bins just to keep things warmer. And I started hearing some popping noises, so I look over. I was like, there must have been a bug or something in there, whatever. Then it starts sparking some more, and then I see where the cord goes into that ceramic part. It just started melting.
Oh.
And I was like, what the hell? And so I went and turned it off and unplugged it, and it was like literally about to like just melt and fall off.
Jeez. Wow. That could have been a disaster, man.
Yeah.
And then that rack. Last night I was checking on some stuff in one of my racks, and I was like checking on my small male hog. And I was like, man, what smells like burning plastic? I was like, that's not good. So then I took the whole tub out, and the freaking heat tape was like turning brown, like it was burning.
Yeah.
Jeez.
I took a picture of it.
That's what would like. That kind of freaks me out about like.
Oh shit.
Having a separate snake building from your house. Like, I mean, I guess if you weren't there, it would save your house from burning down. But also, like, it's less access. You'd be less inclined to like go check it in the middle of the night or something like that, you know?
Yeah.
And catch it smoking or catch the smell of it and be like, oh shit, I got to do something about it, you know? And then it would just burn down.
At first, I thought I was just going crazy because it was kind of faint, and so I was like, "Is that what I think it is?" And I unplugged the whole rack. I need to go and check and see. I think their probe or something just fell out or whatever.
I think that's why I know that's why I've started to kind of switch a lot of my, especially Neo racks, to back heat, to where you're not getting any of that friction.
Yeah.
Any kind of like tub over, like scraping over the top of it constantly. It wears that shit out.
I prefer back heat. This was a rack that I think my dad got, and so I got it from him because he was getting out of stuff. And
I've got some that are still underbelly heat. I'm in the process of switching some shit out for sure.
Because, I mean, over time, it doesn't matter how well the rack is built, you know, eventually just general mechanics and physics, like eventually that you're just basically very slowly sanding down that clear coat on that tape, and, you know, it's going to eventually get exposed. And So
Yeah.
I'm glad I was home when I caught that, because if I wasn't, who knows what would have happened. I mean, we just got this freaking house and just gonna, damn near burn it down. So now I don't know what to do. Like, I need to either replace that section of tape or figure out some other route to go with it and just not heat it at all.
How high is it in the rack?
That tub's the top shelf, top tier.
Yeah, I mean that could be a thing unto itself. It could have just heat rises. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know.
Have you pulled the tape off that shelving, but kept the rack going to see if the temperature in the tub is still adequate?
No, I mean the room ambient is pretty warm, so even if I didn't put anything back on heat, there's nothing in there that's so sensitive that it would decline. It keeps like the pair of hog noses in there, a couple of Bairds, some of the corns, that Popwin that I have, they're whatever. They're nothing. If they get kept in the high 70s, low 80s, they'll be fine. So it was just, I thought I was going crazy, man. I smelled something burn. I was like, what the hell is that? And I pulled it out because I was like, this is I like checked it, like I put my hand in there and I was like, that does feel warmer than it should be. And then I pulled out the tub and I was like, Jesus Christ. And I think
when in doubt, go with your gut, man.
Yeah, like I said, I think the probe just fell out somewhere. And that's the other thing that's been a real bitch with a lot of the stuff I have is like keeping the probe in place. Because there was a point with my I have a small rack with my chondros in it, like 6 of my juvenile chondros, and the probe fell out of the hole in the back. And so same thing, I opened the tub one day and I was like, man, that's warm in there. And so then I like looked and the probe was just missing from the back, like it had slipped out. And so those tubs were easily triple digits, and all the chondros were like at the front. They were like, dude. And so I was like, that's weird. Like something's not right. And I'm glad I caught that because I didn't have any damage to the rack or anything like that. But I was like, these things are cooking. And it's those little, those things Dom sent us, the little holders, cable holders with the screw that just keeps them from moving. I need to get some of those because I was just like, stupid shit like that, man. It's like that. That's so irritating. Even that new, the new cage from Black Box, it has a probe holder up by the heat panel. And I put it in there. I was like, he might pull it out, he might not. And of course, within like 10 minutes, he had pulled it out. So I took a zip tie and zip tied around it so that it can't be pulled out of there. It kind of actually like a stop. But it's just like, man, like the probe thing, that's the biggest. I'm of the opinion now, that's the most important thing, is making sure that is secured where you want it and that it's not going to go anywhere.
Right.
I run through my racks once a week. I should probably do it more, but about once a week I run through my racks and check all my probe placement just because I've had the same thing with a couple homemade racks that I made where all the snakes are on the front end. You're like, what the hell? That's not normal. You reach back there and you're like, shit, that burns my hand. And it's not melting plastic, but if I wouldn't have caught it, it would have been bad, like really bad. So.
Yeah. On my V70s or CB70s, whatever the hell they are now, the tape, whatever type of tape I had that I've used for other probes, it would not stay adhered to the PVC. So I got staple gun.
Yeah, that metal tape doesn't stick well for some reason. That metal tape.
Once it gets hot, that adhesive like backs off and it falls off.
Yeah. So I wound up getting a staple gun that you would use for like contact shots, and I put one staple in the wall where the probe would be. So if you tug on the cord, the actual fat part of the probe prohibits it from pulling out.
Yeah.
So it can go in deeper, but it can't come out. And I was like, all right, that makes me feel better. One staple. That's
a good idea. I've got those new heat panels that what the fuck? I can't remember. I think it's like Vivarium Electronics.
Yeah, the VEs.
But they freaking, I don't know why the hell they didn't hardwire them into the back.
They did twice on the older ones.
I've got an older one, and I love it. I still use it.
My chondros and my Boyga.
Oh, it drives me nuts,
dude. The Jance and I, every time they unplug that thing, and it's so irritating because there's no way, like there's literally, short of hot gluing it or something, there's no way you can permanently attach that.
Oh, wait, I
hot gluing's not a bad idea.
Elaborate to me as to what we're talking about.
So, like, they've instead of being hardwired into the base of the heat panel, they have a little plug It's got a flat side and a round side, and it's like a 2-prong plug that you plug into the back. Well, even if you use the little like cable securing things that they give you, a snake can get up and push down on it, and it pops it right out of the back of the heat panel, so you're not getting heat anymore. It's not a fire hazard, but say you have a gravid female that you need to have some heat on, you don't check it or you forget or whatever, that could be detrimental. You could have some serious issues with that.
Sure.
Happens all the time. Like I said, like I got 3 or 4 cages that I'm using those in, and every time, because it's like I said, it's all arboreal stuff. It's chondros, it's Boiga, it's the Jansenite. They're constantly unplugging it. It's like, what the hell? It's so frustrating.
It's a piss poor design. It really is. It's piss poor.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know. At the same time, like I don't mind that, because then probe falls out or whatever gets unplugged, like it's unplugged. There's no current going to it anymore, so I don't have to worry about it freaking exploding. But
yeah,
it is annoying.
I only use it on my Brettles cages, so it doesn't really matter anyway.
Right.
But I don't even know if hot glue would work, because those things get pretty warm. I feel like that might. I don't know. And I mean, Dan Colgan, who was in the chat, he had one not that long ago, like that plug part that plugs in, that had melted. Like there was some sort of issue. And I mean, I think that's very rare with the VE stuff, but he's like, I'm never using these again. And it was like, there's pictures of it somewhere, but it was like, it had melted that where you plug it in, that short and that flat, that round and flat spot.
Yeah.
And I don't know, but it is frustrating.
Wonder if something may have gotten in there whenever it got unplugged or something, and then you plugged it back in not knowing. Maybe it could short out like that. I mean, there's a million ways that something bad could happen in that situation.
Yeah, and the way they, the depth they have it placed as far as where it plugs in, like Austin was saying, you don't have any way of attaching like a cable clip or something to keep that in place, because it goes down and like in. So
it's like 2 inches. Yeah. It's like they can wedge their head in there and just pop it out.
Yeah.
I'll be changing those up. That was I put those in some newer cages that I built, and I love that cage sack that I built. It's probably one of the best ones that I'll probably have them forever. And and I put these heat panels in there, and I don't know. It's got me rethinking my what I'm gonna have to switch it out at some point. It just drives me nuts.
Brad's saying pro panels, and I haven't used pro panels, but I know all you have to do is call the guy. But the fact that you have to call him, tell him what you're using, how big it is, like what the temperatures are of the room you're keeping them in, like basically give him your resume as far as like what you need to do in order to get these panels. It's like
I use Pro Products heat panels.
Send me the damn panel. Here's the size I need. Send it. It's going to be on a thermostat.
Have you guys ever had a VE unit just like freak out on you?
No.
So I had that same V70 or CB70, whatever it is. I got
talking about the stat?
The stat, yeah. I've got a VE100, and I have it set for 3 degrees up, 3 degrees down, keeping consistent at like 80. I think I set it for 81. Well, it got to the 3 degrees up, and where instead of turning off, the screen had gone blank, and it just stayed there. And like it wasn't necessarily like a heat hazard or a fire hazard, but all the snakes were like, "Dude, what's going on in here, man?"
Yeah.
It's just the whole thing, and it just festered there. And I hadn't been in the room in like a day or two, and I get up there and all the snakes are sweating, for lack of a better word, and I look and the screen is completely filled in with color. So like, the yellow LED screen, the whole thing is just filled, like every pixel is filled in with color. And I was like, oh my God. So I go to pull the power cord out the back of the unit because it's plugged into a surge protector behind the rack. And I'm like, I go to pull it, and the whole electronic connector comes out the back of the box. And I was like, So now I just grab the rack and I just move, because it's not on casters, because that would be smart. I pull the whole rack out by hand, and I just yoink the cord out of the surge protector, and it turns off. I finagle the power thing back into the back of it, and then I bring it to the other side of the room where I just have a normal wall outlet, and I plug it back in, and the thing turns on perfectly fine.
I mean,
So,
they're in terms of build quality, they're definitely not top tier.
Yeah,
I use Herpestats mainly. That's most of what
that's what I have on my incubator, and those things are solid.
Yeah. I mean, I've got a VE 300s on the geckos, and I've never had a. I mean, we find some wood. I've not yet.
Knock
when
one
in doubt, I always do this.
Yeah. I've not yet had a problem with the 300s, but that 100. Like, that's the one where the probe keeps falling out. That's the one where the thing came out the back. That's the one where it went all crazy blank on me. So, I don't know. Maybe it's just an old unit. Maybe I just need a new one.
Yeah. Sometimes you also just get, like, lemons, dude. Just like cars. Sometimes you just get, like, a shit product and everything. All the other products on that same line are fine. You just got a garbage one.
Yeah, that one was made Friday at 5. You know?
Dayton, are the Pro Panel ones, are those hardwired?
What do you mean?
Like, as far as like that cord that is the power that connects to your outlet, does that come out, or is that permanently, like, that's actually attached?
That's in. That's in. That's attached. Yeah. But I think you have to. No, maybe they sent them too. At the other end is open, and I think you have to attach a plug-in.
Yeah, that's how the old VE ones were. I've still got one in one of these bigger cages I have. I love it to death.
Like the white plug. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yep. The actual prong that goes in the outlet, you have to. It's been a long time since I bought one because I just basically, move them around and reuse them and everything like that. Because I only use them for gravid females. But I think you do have to buy the prong that plugs in and attach it at the other end.
On top of giving your social security number, your address, a background check.
Yeah. It's funny because
tax information.
That works for me. Like I like doing phone calls and stuff like that instead of being like, I got to order something online. I don't even know how to do like Grubhub or anything like that. I'm super old school. So
I want to be able to combine the two. I want to be able to order it the way I can order VEs, but get the build quality and the design of the Pro panels, because those are also a lot flatter. They are a lot more
profiles, slimmer,
space savvy. Yeah,
and it doesn't seem to, because I've gotten some from buddies that are, it's like for a different size cage that I'm using,
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't seem to matter a whole lot, like all the things he asks you to send you the right size, like how how hot do you keep your ambient temperatures, how big is your cage and stuff like that.
Yeah,
what kind of, that doesn't seem to be super important because I can use a heat panel that's not designed for this cage and get the desired temperature that I want. It might.
I just don't see why it matters if you're using a thermostat. What difference does it make?
Yeah, exactly. I guess maybe if you're using too small a one, you might not be able to get like the ambient cage heat that you would want.
Right.
I did my room is pretty much the lowest my ambient I want to go, so I don't have to worry about that too much.
Yeah.
Like if the cage gets as low as the room, it's fine,
Yeah. Yeah, I just use them for basking for gravid female, so I don't really care that much either, as long as I get the desired temp in that one spot, So.
Yeah.
Well, I'm thinking it's bedtime.
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing. It's bedtime.
Which an hour?
I appreciate it, gents. It was a good time. Dayton, it was nice meeting you.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, same to you. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Absolutely.
Good talk, man. Good talk.
We'll see everybody later. The show was brought to you by Puget Sound Pythons.
Woo!
Check them out on Facebook and Instagram. They got, I'm not a ball python guy, but some of the stuff they've been hatching lately is actually pretty cool.
Yeah,
really.
Absolutely.
I don't know nothing about the Morse,
Good
but
peeps.
I know they look good. So.
Yeah, man. Episode
And
60.
they have Doomerals and Anacondas and Lyasis and all the other
cool
stuff.
Yeah. You know, I was making jokes last week about how this is episode 60 and we should do something like special. And honestly, having Austin Dayton on is awesome. This is great talks tonight. Great talks.
Yeah, Randy.
Yeah,
Randy helped set it up.
too.
So props
Good
to
stuff.
Randy.
Thanks, Randy. Big ups.
Thanks for letting me crash, guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Always a pleasure.
Bye.
Later.
I just hit the Leaf Studio thing.
Yeah, that works.
All right, man. Thanks for having me.
Thanks
Thank you.
for coming. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, Philly.
Another one in the bag, baby. Good night.